Chapter 1035. The arena was surrounded by a group of Heaven Chief. They whispered into each other's ears as they looked at the contestants on the stage with a playful look on their faces. Of course, most of their gazes were on Bufang. The Great Demon was just a joke now. The Great Demon, who had dominated Group 10, had fallen to the last place in the first round of the ranking competition. His true energy cultivation was only at 1-star true immortal realm. With this kind of cultivation, most of the people here could easily defeat Bufang. However, the people here were not stupid. Bufang's mental force cultivation might be stronger. After all, Bufang's dominance in the preliminaries was not fake. Since his true energy level was slightly weaker, his mental force would naturally be stronger. However, his true energy level was only at 1-star true immortal realm. No matter how strong his mental force was, how strong could it be? Hence, everyone was looking forward to Bufang's next performance. They had even prepared their sarcastic words. Buzz, another buzzing sound rang out. A frightening fluctuation immediately spread out on the stage. Everyone held their breaths as they stared at the situation on the stage. Beams of light shot up into the sky. Mental force was more mysterious than true energy cultivation, and its fluctuations were more subtle. Boom, boom, boom. Spiritual energy swept out like a tidal wave and scattered in all directions, stirring up thousands of waves. In the next instant, in front of everyone's eyes, thousands of beams of light appeared on the arena. Each of the immortal chefs had mustered all of their energy, constantly pushing their mental force to the extreme. The crowd was in an uproar. That was because all sorts of dazzling and resplendent lights caused everyone to exclaim in surprise. 1 zhang, 2 zhang, 3 zhang beams of light of different heights appeared. Among them, the Heaven Chief from the 5th layer had a light beam above his head that was not weaker than the true energy level. Moreover, it was still rising. At this rate, it was likely to break through 5 zhang and reach 6 zhang. He was indeed worthy of being the genius Heaven Chief from the 5th layer. He was indeed strong. It was said that this person was only ranked around 90 on the talent list. He was considered to be one of the weaker ones among the 5th layer Heaven Chief. Hiss hiss hiss. People would only be amazed when they saw a real genius. Without comparison, there would be no harm. Some people thought of Bufang. The Great Demon, who was as dazzling as a star in the preliminaries, was now completely silent. Everyone looked over and found Bufang's position. But in the next moment, everyone fell into a daze. There seemed to be the roar of a dragon and the cry of a bird in his ears. Everyone was in a trance. Looking at the incomparably bright and towering light beam above Bufang's head, they all looked as if they had seen a ghost. What's going on? This height has reached 50 feet. Almost at the level of the 5th floor Heaven Chief. The Great Demon, it's still the Great Demon, it's still so despairing. The Heaven Chief around the ring were all dumbstruck as they looked on in shock. Gongshu Ban was a little bewildered. He had thought that there was no hope, but now it seemed that it wasn't the case. There was still hope. Bufang's mental force cultivation was extraordinary. This explained why Bufang's true energy cultivation was so weak, but he could cook such powerful dishes. This mental force was really terrifying. A glimmer of hope at the darkest hour. Gongshu Ban felt his eyes brighten all of a sudden. It's still rising. It's already 55 feet. Oh my God! The Great Demon wants to go against the heavens. Is he going to get first place and step on the geniuses of the 5th layer? The onlookers sucked in a breath of cold air. Looking at the light beam above Bufang's head that was still rising, their eyes were filled with disbelief. It seemed that Bufang and the 5th floor Heaven Chief's light beam had been overshadowed. The other Heaven Chief's mental force light beam wasn't that shocking. Compared to the 100 blooming flowers' true energy cultivation, their mental force cultivation was a little weak. Among them, the highest one was only 40 feet. Although it was a good result, compared to Bufang and the 5th floor Heaven Chief's light beam, It was a little insignificant. The fifth-floor heaven chief seemed to feel the pressure from Bufang. He couldn't help but turn his head, looking at Bufang's direction. It was a young man with an ordinary appearance. He stared at Bufang, his eyes narrowing. A moment later, he sneered, and his mental force rose again. At this moment, the young man's light beam had reached 57 feet. Bufang was very calm. His spirit sea surged, and his mental force continued to rise. Soon, it reached 56 feet. It was close to the level of the fifth-floor heaven chief. The onlookers couldn't help but hold their breath. At this moment, this test seemed to become the stage for Bufang and the fifth-floor heaven chief. 58 feet, 59 feet. The fifth-floor heaven chief's face gradually turned red. His body was slightly shaking. Apparently, he didn't want to let Bufang surpass him, so he displayed his mental force to the extreme. Boom! Finally, the fifth-floor heaven chief's mental force made a leap. It broke through the 59 feet shackle and reached the 6-foot level. This meant that the fifth-floor heaven chief's mental force had reached at least the 3-star true immortal realm. However, as his mental force broke through to the 6-foot level, the fifth-floor heaven chief's nose had a hot stream, and fresh blood flowed from it. A moment later, his mental force beam stopped moving, and his eyes looked at Bufang, staring at him. Bufang glanced at him and saw the blood flowing out of the latter's nose. He furrowed his brows. At this moment, Bufang's mental force had reached the 59 feet level, and he was facing the 6-foot shackle. Everyone's hearts were in their mouths. This the great demon, could he reach the 6-foot level? However, he didn't give them much time to guess. The light beam easily broke through 6 feet. That relaxed look was as if he was just drinking water. 6 feet, 61 feet. When the light beam reached this level, Bufang didn't continue to increase it. He retracted the light beam. He could easily suppress that immortal chef from the 5th layer. In the sky, the black stone tablet emerged again, and the ranking on it had undergone an earth-shaking change. Bufang's name, which was originally in the last place, swooshed to the 1st place. He had stepped on the 2nd place, the 5th-floor genius, the Heaven Chief. This was the first time someone had stepped on the 5th-floor Heaven Chief. No wonder he was the great demon. Everyone looked at Bufang with complicated eyes. No wonder he was ranked 100th on the genius list. Boom! Everyone's light beams dispersed. Everyone was hesitant and couldn't believe it. The young Heaven Chief from the 5th floor wiped the warm blood from his nose, his eyes cold. He couldn't imagine that he would be suppressed. In the semi-finals, there was someone who could suppress him. In the audience below the stage, Gongshu Ban excitedly clenched his fists, roaring. Bufang's rise had swept away all the gloominess in his heart. He was so happy. All of a sudden, Gongshu Ban was bewildered. He turned his head to look in the distance. There, a figure wrapped in a black cloak was staring at Bufang on the stage. That gaze was so hot. That kind of heat made Gongshu Ban's heart tremble. In the knockout round, he, Gongshu Ban, had met this black-cloaked man. Facing this black-cloaked man, he didn't even have the courage to hold his knife. He didn't expect that this black-cloaked man was interested in Ownerbu. Who was this black-cloaked man? The first part of the ranking competition is over. Next, the second part, the test of cutting skills. The referee's voice interrupted everyone's clamor. Everyone quietened down. Everyone's gazes landed on the arena. On the stage, the 50 contestants were already in position. So-called knife skills. What is it about? The stronger the knife skill, the stronger the momentum. So, the strength of your knife skill will be judged by the momentum you show when you use your knife skill. The referee said. Everyone agreed with this point. To put it bluntly, knife skills could also be called knife techniques. It was the combination of the chef's spirit, energy, and spirit, while momentum was the materialization of the chef's spirit, energy, and spirit, which had a kind of oppressive force. The knife skills assessment will be carried out in a formation that covers the entire arena. When the time comes, common ingredients will appear in front of everyone. You just need to display your knife skills when processing the ingredient. According to the confrontation of forces, the speed at which you are eliminated will determine the ranking. The referee said. Then, a long, purple spirit fruit appeared on the stone platform in front of everyone. This is the immortal fruit used to practice knife skills. Now, I announce that the knife skills assessment starts now, the referee said. As soon as he finished speaking, the entire arena flashed with radiance. While the audience was in an uproar, they found that an array had emerged on the arena's floor. That array revolved unceasingly, covering everyone inside. The Heaven Chief outside the arena could see that the contestants' auras had begun to change. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At this moment, it was time to show everyone's kitchen knife. Buzz, tens of thousands of knife lights emerged. One by one, the contestants took out their kitchen knives, which they were proud of. A chef was proud of his kitchen knife, and the Heaven Chief was even more so. The kitchen knives of the Heaven Chief were undoubtedly immortal tools. Moreover, they weren't ordinary immortal tools. They were at least mid-grade immortal tools. In the midst of the uproar, all kinds of dazzling kitchen knives emerged in front of everyone's eyes. Those kitchen knives were also different. Some looked like scissors, and some looked like gourds, all kinds. At this moment, the Heaven Chief from the fifth layer wore a serious face. He coldly looked at Bufang, then took out his own kitchen knife. It was a purple kitchen knife, its blade full of patterns. It wasn't thick and was rather thin. However, as soon as he took it out, it was undoubtedly the highest grade immortal knife here. Each kitchen knife seemed to tremble under the pressure of this kitchen knife. Immortals had spirit. No doubt, the tool spirits of their kitchen knives were trembling at this moment. The Heaven Chief from the fifth layer was extremely serious. The kitchen knife in his hand spun, then he suddenly threw it up. The knife light bloomed in the sky. In the next moment, they fell down and turned into a continuous drizzle that enveloped the purple indestructible fruit. Above the head of the fifth layer's Heaven Chief, an invisible force emerged. That force seemed to turn into a painting, a misty and hazy water village in Jiangnan. It's the inherited knife skill of the fifth layer's Heaven Chief Hall, the Misty Rain knife. Some people recognized this knife skill, exclaiming in surprise. Obviously, this knife skill was extraordinary. The other Heaven Chief also showed their knife skills at this moment. Some condensed wild lions, some condensed stars, some condensed storms, and some condensed waves. There were all kinds of them. This was the force of their knife skill. And Bufang buzz, a golden light beam shot out. The dragon bone kitchen knife appeared in Bufang's hand, twirling and twirling it. When the kitchen knife spun, the sharp knife energy constantly scattered in all directions, cutting off the surrounding people's momentum. The moment the force burst out, everyone's forces began to compete. The array's range was only so big. Every space occupied by one's force, the other's forces would have less space. Thus, competition was inevitable. In just a moment, as Bufang's knife skill was displayed, the competition reached its peak. The Overlord 13 blades turned into one blade. Above the dragon bone kitchen knife, the shadow of a dragon hovered, its roar echoing as it turned into a blade that could tear heaven and earth. Above Bufang's head, the shadow of an incomparably majestic Overlord emerged. Boom, boom, boom. The Overlord descended. In just a moment, the Heaven Chief's forces in the arena began to collapse. Chapter 1036. At first, Bufang wanted to use the cutting immortal style. However, after thinking about it, the power of the cutting immortal style was stronger than the Overlord 13 blades, and Bufang hadn't mastered it yet. Yeah, if he can't condense the heart of cooking path, his achievement as a chef of this layer will come to an end. That kind of feeling made people despair. Could it be it was the first time Bufang felt the pressure? The dragon bone kitchen knife in his hand paused. Everyone below the arena could see it clearly. In the next instant, his entire aura suddenly changed. She couldn't endure for more than 1 second before collapsing. Gongshu Ban's eyes reddened. He clenched his fists, biting his lips so hard that they bled. However, it was the most effective way to suppress the great demon. Gongshu Ban was enraged. What's wrong with the first layer's heaven chief? The referee's eyes were a little surprised, staring at him. Xiao Buke and the others grinned. Indeed, as they had expected, everything was over. The referee sighed. The audience only saw the dazzling knife light in Bufang's hand. A moment later, the immortal fruit changed its shape unceasingly. Gongshu Ban's eyes widened, even the overlord was slightly suppressed. Wasn't his knife technique the same as shooting stars when he slashed down with his knife? At this moment, on the arena, besides Bufang, only the other Heaven Chief and the other Heaven Chief were left. Just a cornered beast struggle. That was because the remaining 5 people had joined forces to deal with Bufang. The eyes of the 5th layer's Heaven Chief fell on the other Heaven Chief, as though he was sending them some message. Thus, Bufang thought that it would be risky to use it. The Heaven Chief had power, but the strength of his power was different. Just like that, he had completely destroyed him. The audience had complicated eyes. Some of them even looked at Bufang with admiration. Below the arena, rumble, rumble. The great demon is so ferocious. He destroyed everyone sure like a chicken or a stray dog. The 5 judges on the high platform narrowed their eyes and looked at Bufang curiously. His momentum was like a tidal wave, surging and surging. Overlord 13 Blades was a blade skill provided by the system. Xiao Buchuan, Xiao Buke, and the others clasped their hands behind their backs as they watched the competition on the arena. Bufang was nothing in his eyes. Their smiles did not last long before they froze. An indifferent voice suddenly resounded. It turned into a violent storm and completely crushed towards Bufang. It's over. In the end, the great demon didn't succeed. Gongshu Ban cursed. The Heaven Chief of the 5th floor sneered. He knew that Bufang's knife skill was very good, but it was really beyond his expectation that it was so good. The Heaven Chief on the 5th floor let out a furious roar. The next moment, in just a blink of an eye, he would be completely smashed. It's useless. The chefs of this floor will lose. The buzzing sound echoed unceasingly. The elder sister, who ranked 99th, looked at the peerless Bufang in the arena and couldn't help but murmur. Compared to Bufang, who was walking leisurely in his own courtyard, the dragon bone kitchen knife was constantly spinning in Bufang's hand. Cries of astonishment and furious roars of unwillingness resounded in the surroundings. In just a blink of an eye, the atmosphere in the arena changed greatly. His indifferent face also became slightly solemn. There was a loud explosion. It seemed that the great demon couldn't escape this calamity. This kind of change in momentum between offense and defense almost caused Bufang to be expelled from the arena. A moment later, their eyes fell on the arena again. I didn't expect that the Heaven Chief from the 1st floor could have this level of knife skill. Knife skill. Cutting immortal. One of them was the Heaven Chief from the 5th floor, who was using the Misty Rain knife skill. He seemed to have never seen this knife skill before. The Overlord was suppressed. His eyes opened a little bit, and a scarlet light shot out. The robes of the 6 people in the arena fluttered unceasingly in the wind. The Heaven Chief under the arena sighed with emotion. He has no future. Once he loses in this level of confrontation, his mind will collapse, and he won't be able to condense the heart of cooking path for the rest of his life. The 4 of them were the talented Heaven Chief from the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors. However, could they really suppress the great demon? In the arena, Bufang's space of Sure had been compressed to a small area. The judge looked at the 5 judges with a questioning look in his eyes. Xiao Buke exhaled. Bufang's power suddenly made him feel a little bit of pressure. The competition between the 5 of them suddenly changed at this moment. The sound of people taking in a breath of cold air arose. At least, it was much better than the mountain of radishes he used to practice his knife skill. Xiao Buke's face was a little dark as he said coldly. It's over. She suddenly felt her heart palpitate. Everyone understood the thoughts of the other immortal chefs in the arena. At this moment, Bu Fong was concentrating on dealing with the immortal fruit. The top Heaven Chief of the Heaven Chief realm used this immortal fruit to practice his knife skill. Unfortunately, the 5 judges seemed to favor the 5th layer's Heaven Chief more, thus, Bu Fong had chosen the more stable Overlord 13 Blades. Moreover, the Overlord 13 Blades had always been overbearing. 13 blades fused into one, whose power could bear such a strong pressure. Or, in other words, Bu Fong's knife skill had always been provided by the system. Holy sh*t. Some people couldn't believe it as they didn't understand why they had failed. Indeed, the performance of the other Heaven Chief in the arena made people angry. Especially, at this moment, he lifted his head, looking at the 5 people who had joined hands, his eyes narrowing. The Overlord Phantom appeared. Boom! One by one, the Heaven Chief was eliminated. However, the 5 judges shook their heads, indicating that the confrontation should continue. Everybody was a little hesitant. After all, these 5 people were the Heaven Chief geniuses of their respective layers. They all had the chance to enter the top 100 of the Heaven Chief competition. It was like a silent roar of an overlord. Everyone let out cries of surprise. Many people were still looking at the situation on the stage in disbelief. Facing the 5 people's auras, Bu Fong also felt the pressure. All of a sudden, the geniuses of the various layers have joined hands to suppress the great demon. Although it's unfair, it's so exciting. Because on the arena, it was too early to be happy. Gongshu Ban clenched his fists, secretly hatefully watching the scene on the arena. With the Overlord Phantom behind Bu Fong as the center, the auras of the other Heaven Chief constantly shattered. Above his head, a hazy scroll unfolded, as beautiful as the misty rain of Jiangnan. The ground under Bu Fong's feet also cracked. The ground beneath his feet cracked, and cracks began to spread. Bu Fong seemed to have noticed this as well. This is a little too much. However, as the Heaven Chief of the first layer, he could only be bullied and humiliated. Below the arena, one person's knife technique was displayed to the extreme, and his eyes seemed to be blooming with light. "Is it necessary to bully the great demon like this?" said the 99-ranked elder sister. "Otherwise, it would be shameful to let a Heaven Chief from the first layer get the first place in the test." Bu Fong was still in the mood to talk to the system. Wrapped in a black cloak, the Heaven Chief's eyes sparkled. Defeated? Actually, the judges were a little optimistic about Bu Fong. No one would have thought that the Heaven Chief from the first layer could show such a domineering and powerful aura. The other people around him felt the pressure was huge. The knife techniques of these 4 weren't ordinary. From their auras, they weren't much weaker than the Heaven Chief from the 5th layer. Everyone's eyes were shining as they stared at the competition on the arena. Everyone widened their eyes in shock. According to Gongshu Ban's guess, the power of that knife technique was almost at the level of the Misty Rain knife technique. Bu Fong finally lifted his head, looking at his compressed aura and the crazed faces of the 5 people in the distance. The spinning dragon bone kitchen knife finally stopped spinning. Bu Fong held it tightly in his hand. "This is really... why, I'm such a low-profile person. Why did you force me to be high-profile?" The Misty Rain knife skill was displayed to the extreme. The Misty Rain spread out and enveloped the Overlord. This aura... crack. In the distance, an invisible wave affected the surroundings. The Heaven Chief's auras were disintegrating at a speed naked eyes could observe. The 5 people's knife auras suddenly changed. When the Heaven Chief around the arena saw that, they couldn't help but widen their eyes. Despicable! These damned bastards! Everyone sighed helplessly. "System, you can import this fruit. It's the best way to practice your knife skills." The 5 people's auras instantly swallowed up the last bit of aura that was left in Bu Fong. From his point of view, The competition of knife auras was originally a competition. To be able to unite others to eliminate one's opponent was also a form of competition. However, let's watch. The chef from that layer can't hold on for long. So strong. As soon as the knife aura was released, the surrounding Heaven Chief all collapsed. The ordinary Heaven Chief was almost swept away. The knife technique test tested the Heaven Chief's control of the aura. From the strength of the aura, one could see the strength of the knife technique. I feel sorry for the great demon for a second. I suddenly wish that the great demon could suppress them. The fifth layer's Heaven Chief transmitted his voice to the remaining 4 Heaven Chief. A moment later, on the arena, a dazzling knife light seemed to flash from the end of the void. Xiao Buke's opponents were the monstrous geniuses of the 5th floor of Heaven Chief realm. After a while, that's right. That's the feeling. The Heaven Chief's aura, which had collapsed because of Bu Fang's Overlord knife aura, grabbed their hair in annoyance, their eyes red. The 5 people's kitchen knives danced. The competitive relationship between their auras began to change. In the end, it seemed to become a united front, fighting against Bu Fang's Overlord aura. The black-robed man muttered. Seeing that the space of Bu Fang's knife aura was completely swallowed, and the Overlord phantom disappeared, some people stood blankly on the stage, not knowing what to do. However, today, Bu Fang had shown an even more overbearing knife technique. His finger gently flicked the dragon bone kitchen knife. He wasn't willing. His mental force was suppressed by Bu Fang, which made him very unhappy. Now, this guy wanted to suppress him with his knife technique. Bu Fang's knife technique was too overbearing. It had almost plundered the space around him. They wanted to work together to force the great demon king out of the arena, and then divide the remaining rankings. If she had to face the combined knife aura of the 5 geniuses from different layers, the undying fruit was a dish used to practice knife technique. No matter how you cut it, after 10 seconds, it would return to its original state. It was the great demon's voice. The great demon was ranked 100 on the genius list. He deserved it. The audience was completely shocked by the scene in the arena. At this moment, they were all struggling under Bu Fang's Overlord knife aura. Despicable, lost. The great demon lost. Why couldn't the Heaven Chief of the first layer get a good result? Apparently, the referee also understood the consequences of losing in this kind of confrontation. Someone muttered. Gongshu Ban also faced the sky, giving a long sigh. What a pity. He found that the undying fruit was really a good thing. Looks like the great demon can't hold it anymore. No matter what, it's the combination of the geniuses from different layers. Explode. Completely smash that kid's aura. Leave a hole in his heart, and he will never be able to condense the heart of cooking path. His brows slightly furrowed. Boom. On the arena, the great demon from the first layer should be proud. At the moment his aura changed, the aura of the Heaven Chief was incomparably strong. Bu Fang's aura rose. The great demon is finished. I didn't want to use it. Anyway, let's test its power. Moreover, there were 4 Heaven Chief. However, it was just a pressure. Compared to the Heaven Chief, who was watching the fun, the Heaven Chief in the arena felt more direct. Boom. Everyone's face was incomparably solemn. Regarding the system's knife technique, Bu Fang was very confident. Indeed, he couldn't see through Owner Bu. Bu Fang exhaled deeply. In the distance, the Heaven Chief, who was wrapped in a black cloak, was so excited that his body shivered. His eyes seemed to be bursting with excitement. The referee didn't move. Apparently, he approved this behavior. All right. Chapter 1037. Knife Skill, Cutting Immortal. An extremely calm voice resounded in the arena. In the arena, the 5 Heaven Chief, who had been smiling, changed their faces. This voice was Bu Fang's voice, which they had suppressed. However, how come his voice didn't sound defeated? Instead, it was full of confidence? Bu Fang's aura was about to be broken by them. How could Bu Fang be so confident? Where did his confidence come from? Not only them in the arena, below the arena, the surrounding people also revealed such astonished expressions. Gongshu Ban, who had been cursing continuously, was bewildered. Then, he became excited. Both of his hands patted the edge of the arena. He craned his neck and roared, F***ck him up? Owner boo, F***ck them up. Motherf** cur. The surrounding people looked at Gongshu Ban as if they were looking at a lunatic. Is this fellow sick? Can't he be more refined? The referee also found something different. He furrowed his brows. Focusing, he continued to watch. Could it be that the great demon from the first layer could make a comeback? He was suppressed to that extent. Could he still have a chance to make a comeback? For a moment, the referee was interested. Cutting Immortal. This name is really arrogant. That blade light seemed to burst out from the depths of the void. In that split second, it was so dazzling that it illuminated everyone's eyes, making them feel astonished. The mind of the fifth layer's Heaven Chief shivered. His eyes instantly became incomparably sluggish. Damn it! Combine the blade power. Quick! The fifth layer's Heaven Chief roared. A moment later, the misty and hazy picture unfolded again. The other four Heaven Chief were also startled. Their blade light swept, their blade power fusing. At Bufang's position, the originally dim brilliance slowly brightened. The space that was compressed to less than an inch slowly expanded. The five people were frightened to see that Bufang's blade power was continuously growing. That speed of growth was simply unheard of. An ethereal shadow slowly emerged above Bufang's head. That shadow actually looked somewhat similar to Bufang, or rather, it was just Bufang's body that had been enlarged. What kind of knife skill was this? Everyone in the audience was horrified. Expand, Bufang held the dragon bone kitchen knife, and a dragon roar rang out from the kitchen knife. In the next moment, there seemed to be a phantom of a divine dragon hovering around Bufang's kitchen knife. Bufang's eyes gradually became bright and dazzling. A blade slashed down on the immortal fruit. The indestructible fruit had shattered, and it was actually difficult to recover. There was a tearing noise. At this moment, it was as if everything had turned into this blade. The saber slashed down. Everything seemed to have become quiet. Boom! The phantom behind Bufang slowly took out a kitchen knife. Following Bufang's movements, it slowly slashed forward. Bufang's power was growing rapidly. Soon, it completely suppressed the power of the other five people. Such a terrifying scene caused everyone to suck in a breath of cold air. Oh my God! This is fake, right? The great demon rose again? It's really the terrifying great demon. Does he want to suppress the five top Heaven Chief alone? The surrounding onlookers were instantly in an uproar. They were all filled with shock. Seeing Bufang's power grow continuously, suppressing the joint power of the other five people, they all took in a breath of cold air. Xiao Buke's pupils shrank. Impossible! How could he do that? Because even he, Xiao Buke, couldn't suppress the power of those five people. At most, he wouldn't be defeated. And that was because his knife skill was extremely special. After all, his identity was very special. Although he was the young master of the Xiao family in the second layer of the Heaven Chief realm, he had another identity, which was the source of his pride. He was the city lord of the second layer of the Heaven Chief realm, Lu Zhandue's disciple. His knife skill was inherited from Lu Zhandue. Except for the city lord of the first layer, the other city lords were all Qilin chefs. Being the disciple of a Qilin chef was enough for him to be proud. This was also the reason why he was confident that he could compete with the monstrous geniuses of the fifth floor of Heaven Chief realm. Basically, the monstrous geniuses of the fifth floor were the disciples of the city lords. He must be stubborn. He can't hold on for long. Xiao Buke said seriously. Xiao Buke said seriously. At this moment, the others were already dumbstruck, including the elder sister who ranked 99. Xiao Buchuan's eyes were filled with fear. This scene reminded him of the terrible experience he had in the first layer. At that time, Bufang had also fought 1 against 5. In the end, he had won. Was everything going to repeat itself? In the arena, the Heaven Chief from the 5th layer had sweat trickling down his forehead, and his eyes were bloodshot. Bufang's knife slowly slashed down. It made him feel the pressure suddenly rise, and his entire body seemed to be shrouded in a cold aura. This knife skill, this feeling, how could it appear in the 1st layer of the Heaven Chief? He had only felt this kind of feeling from the monstrous geniuses of the 5th layer. Hold on. Crush him. The 5th layer's Heaven Chief didn't believe it, roaring angrily. A moment later, his knife skill was displayed to the extreme, and the kitchen knife in his hand radiated brilliance. The misty rain painting seemed to change. The misty rain that was originally full of immortal intent turned into a storm in just a blink of an eye. The other Heaven Chief also clenched their teeth, displaying their extreme knife skills. In an instant, the atmosphere became fierce and intense. The audience below the arena held their breaths, not daring to breathe loudly. They stared at the arena seriously, until a crisp ripping sound rang out. The phantom behind Bufang slashed out a knife. That knife. It was unstoppable. What the 5 immortal chefs were doing was putting up a desperate struggle. The misty rain painting was torn. Starting from the middle, it was cut into 2 halves. Boom! A loud sound rang out. Everyone saw it. It was the 5th layer's Heaven Chief. His face instantly turned deathly pale. The kitchen knife in his hand also flew out. Thousands of knife lights shrouded his arm. Puff, puff, puff. Blood splattered. The 5th layer's Heaven Chief howled miserably. His arm was slashed by the kitchen knife, leaving countless cuts. Puff. He spurted a mouthful of blood, kneeling on the ground. The arena's ground cracked. The 5th layer's Heaven Chief's power was completely expelled. Drip, drip, the 5th layer's Heaven Chief knelt on the ground. He was panting hard. Blood flowed from his mouth and nose. His arm was full of cuts, from which blood gushed out. In the distance, his kitchen knife fell. The kitchen knife was dim, no longer radiating light. His pupils constricted, and he was in a trance. In his heart, it seemed that Bufang's knife had just slashed a crack that would never heal. He could no longer condense the heart of cooking path. His future would stop here. Puff, puff. The other 4 Heaven Chiefs' fates weren't any better. They all spurted blood. The kitchen knives in their hands exploded. They staggered a few steps back, their faces ashen from defeat. In the arena, the 5 judges' eyes shrank. Hurry up and stop him. A judge slammed the table, glaring at the judge. The judge was startled. He hurried to take action. His body flashed, and he appeared on the arena. A kitchen knife appeared in his hand, sweeping horizontally. An invisible wave of power shot out from his body, sweeping toward Bufang's remaining power. The judge's pupils shrank. He staggered backward, taking in a breath of cold air. This power. It was too King terrifying. He almost couldn't stop it. It should be known that he was a peak 2nd-grade Heaven Chief, an existence that had half a foot into the 3rd-grade Heaven Chief realm. However, facing the remaining power of the knife, he almost lost. The result was, without a doubt, Bufang won. The power on his body slowly dispersed. Bufang looked at the judge, his face emotionless. His fingers flicked, and the dragon bone kitchen knife spun in Bufang's hand. After twirling the knife, Bufang put it away. The winner is Bufang. The judge looked at Bufang, his pupils constricting as he said in a deep voice, "Boom." In the arena, an old judge raised his hand, pounding the table, glaring at Bufang. Cutting people's knife power, destroying their foundation. Such a ruthless person. What qualifications does he have to participate in the Heaven Chief competition? As soon as the judge opened his mouth, the audience went into an uproar. Did this judge want to hold the great demon accountable? Did he want to disqualify the great demon from the competition? But it wasn't the great demon's fault. When the 5 people joined hands to smash the great demon's knife power and leave a shadow in the great demon's heart, why didn't this judge stand up? Xiao Buke calmed down, his face revealing a cold smile. One of those 5 people is old Chen's disciple. The great demon is doomed this time. Everybody held their breath, looking at Bufang. They didn't know how the great demon would solve this. That was a 3rd-grade Heaven Chief, a famous Heaven Chief in the Heaven Chief realm. If such an existence wanted to punish the great demon wouldn't be able to escape this calamity. The other judges wanted to say something, but they were afraid of old Chen's power, so they didn't say anything. The judge was a little aggrieved in his heart. He felt injustice for Bufang. At this moment, the other 5 Heaven Chiefs' eyes had lost focus. They hadn't recovered from their failure. Bufang wiped the dragon bone kitchen knife. Green smoke twirled, and the dragon bone kitchen knife was put away. Then, Bufang put both of his hands into the pockets of his vermilion robe. His face indifferent, he lifted his head, looking at old Chen. The latter glared at Bufang, but Bufang just looked at him indifferently. Retard. Bufang's face was emotionless as he spat out these 3 words. He turned to the old man. Destroying someone's foundation? Chopping someone's knife? All of this was started by the other 5. Bufang was just fighting back. What right did this old man have to punish him? What did the great demon say? The great demon called old Chen a retard? F***ck. So domineering. He deserves to be called the great demon. So domineering. After Bufang finished speaking, the crowd quieted down. A moment later, it boiled over. That was old Chen, one of the most powerful people in the 3rd layer of the Heaven Chief realm. The great demon wasn't afraid to call him a retard. How dare you? You're just a kid. Did you eat a bear's heart or a leopard's gall? Being called a retard, old Chen was so enraged that his face was about to bleed. He, old Chen, had never suffered such humiliation before. You. Get lost. You're disqualified. Disqualified. Old Chen roared. His roar reverberated through the entire square. Old Chen. You. The referee couldn't stand it anymore. Frowning, he lifted his head to look at old Chen. Shut up. There's no room for you to speak here. Old Chen coldly glanced at the referee. Old Chen. Disqualifying a contestant isn't up to you alone. The 5 judges must vote together, the referee said. However, the referee's heart sank. He sighed. The remaining judges wouldn't dare to offend old Chen. They would definitely decide to disqualify Bufang. What a pity. He looked at Bufang with regret. He could only help him this much. Bufang was calm. Of course, he knew the referee was helping him. He lifted his head, looking at the 5 judges in the distance. The judges looked at each other, then laughed. We all agree. Old Chen is right about such a cruel and merciless person. We all agree to disqualify this contestant. Swoosh. The entire square was in an uproar. The great demon. This time, he was doomed. Old Chen sneered. The corners of Xiao Buke's mouth rose. The 5th layer's Heaven Chief, who was kneeling on the ground, suddenly lifted his head. His face was red and he sneered, Huh? Using your status to oppress others? That's a little too much. Anyway, I forgot to tell you. Bufang indifferently looked at old Chen and the judges. I have someone above me. As soon as Bufang's voice faded, a moment later, petals fell from the sky. The sound of a zither echoed. A small, naked child descended from the sky, fluttering his pure white wings. He hovered above the 5 judges' heads. Who's calling? Chapter 1038. Who was calling? Calling your sister, what the heck was that? Everybody was a little dumbfounded as they looked at the naked, wimpy kid floating in the air. The wimpy kid with wings flapped his wings, accompanied by heavenly music. Flower petals fluttered, giving him the air of an immortal. Of course, the premise was that he had to cover his lower body. Bufang was a little bewildered. Looking at that little fellow, his brows couldn't help but twitch. He knew that thing. It was Realm Lord Dit's little brother Ginseng Fruit. Little brother, right? What is that thing? This is the venue of the Heaven Chief competition. Unauthorized people are not allowed to enter. Where are the guards? Old Chen looked at the wimpy kid, coldly shouting. As his voice rang out, several figures streaked across the sky and arrived. They hovered in the air, surrounding the wimpy kid. Interesting, Bufang put his hands in the pockets of his vermilion robe, indifferently watching the scene in the air. It seemed that the so-called Old Chen didn't recognize Realm Lord Dit's little brother. Bufang didn't expose him, just watching the scene in the air. Down below, everybody was dumbstruck. What was this thing that had suddenly appeared for? Was it a joke? And the great demon said that he had someone above him. Was he referring to that little thing? This kind of naked brat, they could beat 10 of them with a single hand. It turned out that the great demon also had a sense of humor. Looking at his expressionless face, he could still joke. The wimpy kid was dumbstruck. What did these guards want to do? Presumptuous. Are you blind? Have you never seen the wise and divine Realm Lord His Highness? Little Dit was so angry, shouting in the air. The group of guards surrounding Little Dit couldn't help but laugh. This thing was really a joke. They had never seen the wise and mighty Realm Lord His Highness. As the top Qilin chef in the Heaven Chief realm, how could they, the guards, meet him? However, if he had never seen the Realm Lord before, what did that have to do with a naked brat like him? Come with us. This is the venue of the Heaven Chief competition. You can't show up naked. One of the guards said. Old Chen coldly glanced at the guard. Being naked isn't the point. Hurry up and bring this little guy out. The guard's expression turned serious as he hurriedly nodded. I want to see who dares to touch this Realm Lord. Little Dit was extremely angry. His hands were on his hips, and the wings on his back were flapping. His golden hair floated in the wind. His words were very dignified. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the guards grabbed his wings and dragged him out of the plaza. Bufang was speechless. The wise and mighty Realm Lord D. Tai. Are you King funny? Seems like I still have to rely on myself. Of course, he couldn't be disqualified. He still needed to enter the top 10 of the Heaven Chief competition to complete the system's task. He hadn't condensed the heart of cooking path yet. How could he be expelled just like that? Although he couldn't rely on the Realm Lord Dit, Bufang still had a solution. However, Little Dit, whose wings were being lifted, was very angry. After struggling for a while, an invisible wave of energy burst out from his body. A moment later, Little Dit's eyes turned gold. Boom, boom, boom. A wave of terrifying energy burst out in the void. One by one, the guards were blasted away by an invisible force, and their armors shattered in the void. You dare to lift your wise and mighty Realm Lord Dit. All of you, go and experience the art of nudity. Little Dit placed his hands on his hips, his lower body blooming with holy light. In the void, the guards wore a bewildered face. Their eyes almost popped out of their sockets as they watched their bodies fly away uncontrollably, their armors shattering. What the F***CK? The onlookers widened their eyes and dropped their jaws. They were dumbstruck. That shining white guard in the sky, it was a little exciting. Presumptuous! What are you doing? Old Chin was enraged. An invisible wave of energy shot out from his body. A moment later, a palm slapped toward Little Dit in the void. Boom! The entire void began to ripple. As Old Chen was a Grade 3 Heaven Chief, his cultivation base was peerless. This palm strike made people shiver in fear. Many people thought that it was too much. To a little kid, Old Chen dared to kill him. Seeing Old Chen take action, Bufang knew that he was safe. That palm, which blotted out the sky and covered the sun, caused everyone to feel suffocated. Just like that, it was torn apart in the void. Everyone scattered. As for the little wimp, he slowly flapped his wings and flew in front of Elder Chin. His small and exquisite hand held a token, which he patted on Old Chen's face. "Old man, seems like you're not afraid of death." Old Chen was bewildered. He took the token off his face. The judges also saw the token. A moment later, their eyes shrank, taking in a breath of cold air. They all stood up from their seats and bowed to little Di Tai. Old Chen's face was cloudy and shocked. He couldn't help but bow. This token represented the Realm Lord of the Heaven Chief Realm. The token was there, and the person was there. This little kid had a relationship with the Realm Lord? This year's Heaven Chief competition, the wise and divine Realm Lord Dit is watching closely. You used your power for personal gain. Old man, do you want to die? Now, I announce that you're removed from this year's judge position. Little Dit placed his hands on his waist, speaking arrogantly. Old Chen was bewildered. However, seeing the token was like seeing the Realm Lord. He didn't dare to get angry. His face twitched. Eventually, he sighed. Taking back the token, Little Dit looked at the other judges. You should know what to do next. It's not right to use your power for personal gain. We have to ensure the fairness of the Heaven Chief competition. Little Dit clasped his hands, speaking calmly. His pure white wings flapped. The judges nodded and smiled, showing that they understood. Then, Little Dit flapped his wings, landing on Old Chen's seat, crossing his legs. All right, let's continue the competition. That little chef isn't bad. The judges nodded in agreement once again. Hey, little chef, are you interested in doing something big with me? Little Dit sat on his chair, calling Bufang. Bufang looked at Little Dit, the corners of his mouth twitching. Even if he didn't come with his real body, this Realm Lord Dit was a little funny. Do you want to experience the art of nudity? If you're not interested, you can discuss it with Xiao Bai. Bufang shook his head, the corners of his mouth twitching. Little Dit was bewildered, feeling a little regretful. Then forget it. Let's continue the competition. You're not allowed to use your power for personal gain. Little Dit said. He raised his chubby fingers, pointing at his eyes, then at the judges. The wise and mighty Realm Lord His Highness is watching you. The corners of the judges' mouths twitched. Without the Realm Lord's token, do you think we'll pay attention to you? Old Chen was aggrieved. He was so angry that he flicked his sleeves and left. He didn't pay attention to the disciples kneeling on the arena. All right. The competition will continue. The third part is the dish test. The judge stood up, announcing that the competition would continue. Below the arena, the onlookers were bewildered. What happened? Where did that exhibitionist kid come from? Why did he make the judges yield? Why did he let Old Chen leave? They all sucked in a breath of cold air as they looked at the great demon king in the arena. The great demon didn't have an ordinary background. He could even handle Old Chen. They had thought that the great demon king was going to fall this time, but in the end he had risen again. The great demon. He's really awesome. I have a feeling that the great demon is going to kill a monster this time. This year's Heaven Chief competition should have some changes. It's going to be interesting. The audience was so excited that they started to chatter. Xiao Buke's eyes shrank, looking at the intact Bufang in disbelief. He had thought that Bufang would be disqualified from the competition by Old Chen, but in the end an exhibitionist brat had appeared and saved the great demon king. He's lucky, but his next opponent will be stronger. Xiao Buke gritted his teeth, saying coldly. Bufang had begun to put pressure on him. However, he wasn't afraid. His opponents were the top geniuses of the 5th layer, not a little chef from the 1st layer. In the arena, Bufang shrugged. Now, let's start the third part of the competition to determine the final ranking, Rumble. As soon as the referee's voice faded, the black stone tablet in the sky changed again. Once again, Bufang's name appeared in the first place. The Heaven Chief from the 5th layer had his knife power broken, so his ranking was a few places lower. Punching the ground, the Heaven Chief from the 5th layer stood up, his eyes fierce as he gazed at Bufang. In cooking, I won't lose to you, the Heaven Chief said coldly. He took out a bandage, tying up his arm, which had many cuts on it. He walked to his seat and summoned the stove that was surrounded by dense immortal energy. The other Heaven Chief also took their places. The third and most important cooking competition had finally begun. Once again, the competition went back on track. Old Chen's incident seemed to be just a small interlude. Bufang clasped his hands, standing at his spot, indifferently looking at the Heaven Chief from the 5th layer. I forgot to tell you. If you want to compete with me, there's a professional term. It's called Chef's Challenge, Bufang said. A moment later, the sky rumbled. Little Dit, who was nibbling on a spirit fruit, lifted his head, looking at the void in surprise. The will of the Great Path? Did that thing get a cramp? Meanwhile, outside the arena, the Heaven Chief from the 10th group was shocked by Bufang's words. Chef's Challenge? My God, could it be that the Great Demon King wants to? F***CK. The Great Demon is back. The despairing Great Demon King is going berserk again. The Heaven Chief from the 10th group recalled the fear of being dominated, their faces filled with sympathy as they looked at the other Heaven Chief in the arena. Xiao Buchuan was frightened. Chef's Challenge. He's starting again. Xiao Buke furrowed his brows. He had heard about Bufang's Chef's Challenge. Now, he wanted to see what it was. Swish ingredients piled up on the stove. One by one, the immortal chefs began to cook intensely. The Heaven Chief from the 5th layer gazed at Bufang. At this moment, Bufang was his only opponent. If he could defeat him, he would have a chance to mend the crack in his heart. Otherwise, he would be stuck here for the rest of his life, unable to condense the heart of cooking path. Knife light flashed, showing all kinds of cooking skills. At this moment, it felt like a cooking competition. Rumble. Soon, dark clouds began to gather in the sky again. Lightning flashed and roared above everyone's head. The black turtle constellation walk spun, and an aroma diffused. This time, Bufang didn't cook the oyster pancake he had cooked in the preliminaries. Although the oyster pancake wasn't bad, Bufang had chosen to do a chef's challenge. Moreover, his opponent wasn't the Heaven Chief from the preliminaries. Thus, this time, Bufang chose to cook the invincible spicy strip. As soon as the spicy strip appeared, who could compete with it? The spicy aroma diffused. Bufang held his chopsticks, taking out a scarlet spicy strip from the black turtle constellation. Wok. The spicy gravy dripped from the spicy strip. Everyone was dumbfounded as they stared at Bufang's dish. That thing. Could it be considered a F***king dish? Little Dit took a bite of his spirit fruit. When he saw the spicy strip Bufang had taken out, he instantly spat it out. He knew that thing. Wasn't that the thing that the clown Pluto always had in his mouth? Rumble. In the sky, the thunder dragons thundered. Everybody was dumbfounded. That thing was really a dish. The corners of Bufang's mouth twitched. These people didn't know how terrifying the spicy strip was. It was a spicy strip made with the enhanced abyssal chili sauce, but Bufang wanted to use it to fight against 49 opponents. Rumble. In the sky, the thunder boomed. A moment later, under everybody's shocked eyes, 50 thunder dragons struck at the same time. Chapter 1039. Rumble. The thunder dragons roared and fell, tearing the sky as if they were going to shatter the void. This was the most shocking scene in the semi-finals, and everyone was waiting for it. 50 immortal chefs cooked immortal dishes at the same time to resist their lightning punishment. This scene was incomparably shocking, and it made everyone's heart surge with emotions. Thunder boomed unceasingly. In the arena, each of the Heaven Chief displayed their lightning protection skills. To be able to become a Heaven Chief of this level, they naturally had their own skills. After all, they had cooked many immortal dishes, and lightning protection was their foundation. Below the arena, the Heaven Chief, who belonged to the 10th group, had a strange look on his face. Lightning protection was probably not needed anymore. As expected, it was as they had expected. The 50 lightning punishments that fell from the sky had a change that made people gawk and drop their jaws. Rumble! The thunder dragons bared their fangs and brandished their claws, pouncing on the thunder dragon above Bufang's head. The enraged roar that erupted in an instant caused everyone to be taken aback. The judges in the arena all sucked in breaths of cold air. The judge's body trembled, and he almost couldn't help but stop them. However, he didn't dare to stop so many thunder dragons. Little Dit sat in his chair, watching the scene. His little eyes sparkled as if he was projecting the scene somewhere. The thunder dragons are biting each other. Interesting. Is it because of the will of the Great Path? In the arena, the Heaven Chief were dumbfounded. Where were their thunder dragons? They were all prepared for the tribulation, but the lightning punishments disappeared. Was he teasing them? Why did the thunder dragons go to that guy's side? The eyes of the 5th layer's Heaven Chief shrank. He suddenly had a bad feeling. He's courting death. How can he resist 49 thunder dragons? Boom. As expected, the thunder dragon above Bufang's head couldn't endure the bombardment of the 50 thunder dragons. However, it was still being offset. Soon, the lightning dragons vanished in the void. In the arena, many of Heaven Chief's dishes began to crumble. Their bowls cracked, and the immortal energy dissipated. Each of the Heaven Chief's pupils constricted, and they sucked in a breath of cold air as their bodies trembled. Below the arena, as expected, familiar graphics, familiar controls. I feel sorry for the contestants in the arena for 1 second. This is true despair. Chef's challenge. This is the true terror of the Great Demon. The Great Demon is really the shit stirrer of this year's Heaven Chief competition. The onlookers sighed and looked at Bufang with complicated eyes. At this moment, Bufang did not care about the lightning punishment in the sky. All of his mental energy was concentrated on the chili strip. Voila! The sauce on the spicy strip flowed down. A sweet spicy smell filled the air. The chili strip was emitting a radiance. It was red and translucent, and there seemed to be energy flowing within it. While the surface of the chili strip was glowing, immortal energy spiraled. Without a doubt, this was an immortal dish. However, compared to the previous chili strip, it seemed to be more delicious, and it contained a deeper meaning. The improved abyssal chili sauce tasted perfect. It was more than 1 grade higher than the previous one. A dish of this grade was enough to make people sink in it. Bufang took out a round plate. The round plate was filled with ice cubes. Cold energy diffused from the ice cubes, and white, chilly air rolled. Bufang stabbed the chili strip into the ice cubes. Instantly, immortal energy swirled around it like a divine weapon. He used the dragon bone kitchen knife to cut the spirit vegetables, then placed them on the plate. Then, the entire dish was completed, looking like an exquisite work of art. In the sky, the rumbling sounds reverberated unceasingly. Only then did Bufang raise his head, looking at the dazzling lightning in the sky. Bufang's first thunder dragon couldn't bear the bite of so many thunder dragons, and it shattered. However, it had neutralized half of the thunder dragons. The dark clouds in the sky gathered one more time. The second thunder dragon dashed out, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. It tore the sky apart. The second lightning punishment. Not bad. But it's still not enough. Xiao Buke's eyes shrank when he saw that. He took a deep breath and said, "Of course, the power of the second lightning punishment was stronger than the first." Soon, almost all the remaining thunder dragons were neutralized. Only 1 thunder dragon was left in the arena. "You're not the only one who can make a dish that can trigger the second lightning punishment," the Heaven Chief from the 5th layer said coldly. It was still the same 5 people. Their cooking skills were really good. After the first thunder dragon was torn apart, the lightning punishment was condensed again. The second thunder dragon dashed out. In the blink of an eye, the 5 double-layered thunder dragons swooped toward Bufang's double-layered thunder dragon. Killing broke out in the void one more time. Although they didn't know why the thunder dragons were killing each other, however, this kind of direct combat made them very excited. It was really shocking. Rumble. It's not easy for the great demon to win this time. Although his dish triggered the second lightning tribulation, none of the people here are weaklings. There are also people who can trigger the second lightning tribulation. The great demon is going to lose. Why do I feel so excited? The onlookers under the arena were very excited, especially the Heaven Chief from the 10th group. They were terrified by the great demon, and now they could finally see the great demon being suppressed. Of course, they were excited. Rumble! Rumble! The collision broke out instantly. Even the judge sucked in a breath of cold air. Even he didn't dare to face this kind of collision head-on. Little D-Tai crossed his legs and continued to eat the spirit fruit. He was interested in watching the thunderbolts and explosions. Bufang, that kid is going to lose. Little Dit said. The other judges hurried to agree. Yeah. Although they're all second lightning punishments, it's still hard for him to fight 5 alone. This kid is too arrogant. The judges said. Little Dit rolled his eyes. Did I allow you to talk? Can't I, the Realm Lord, see? The other judges were enraged. If it weren't for the Realm Lord's token, they would have beaten that kid to death. Rumble. Indeed, after a series of explosions, Bufang's second lightning punishment was torn apart. The remaining 5 lightning dragons hovered in the sky. Ha ha! You're going to lose. In terms of cooking, I'm enough to crush you. The eyes of the 5th group's Heaven Chief beamed with excitement. The other immortal chefs also laughed loudly. The fear of being dominated by Bufang disappeared instantly. The psychological shadow caused by Bufang's slash also faded a little. However, Bufang didn't care about them at all. He just clasped his hands, staring at the exquisite plate of spicy strips in front of him. The radiance emitted by the chili strip became even more intense, and a mellow, rich, and sweet aroma pervaded the air, causing Bufang's mouth to involuntarily salivate. Boom! Thunder boomed. The laughter of the 5th group's Heaven Chief came to an abrupt halt. Then, everyone revealed a look of shock. They lifted their heads, looking at the top of Bufang's head. There the black clouds had yet to disperse. A terrifying pressure burst forth from within. In the next moment, a vivid and lifelike lightning dragon emerged from the hole. The 3rd lightning punishment. The great demon king's dish actually triggered 3 lightning tribulations? Everybody felt their world view collapse at this moment. How could it be 3 lightning punishments? The dish cooked by the great demon. Wasn't it just AF * King Stick? A stick that could attract 3 lightning punishments. This was F * King Subversive. Gongshu Ban was so excited. A glimmer of hope at the darkest hour. Owner Bu was full of miracles. He had seen dishes that triggered 3 lightning punishments many times. Feel despair. Gongshu Ban's heart was filled with anticipation. Rumble! Rumble! Indeed, when the 3rd Thunder Dragon appeared, the Heaven Chief in the arena was desperate. The 5th group's Heaven Chief was completely dumbfounded. Seeing his own lightning dragon crumble under the might of the 3rd lightning dragon, the tear in his heart seemed to grow even larger. The shadow in his heart became even bigger. This was real despair. Boom! The 5 thunder dragons collapsed, and the black clouds scattered. Only Bufang's thunder dragon was left. It continued to descend. A figure shot out at high speed. Its metal wings spread open, and its stick smashed toward the thunder dragon. They collided. Eventually, it guided the thunder dragons into its stomach. The great demon's earth immortal puppet had taken action. That cool, lightning-eating technique had completely stunned people. Just like the great demon, this earth immortal puppet was fresh, refined, and not pretentious at all. Boom! Boom! The 5 Heaven Chief's dishes shattered one after another. The Thunder Dragon disappeared. Bufang indifferently held the dish that looked like a work of art. You guys, do you feel despair? Bufang indifferently glanced at the stunned Heaven Chief's eyes. Bufang wanted to be low-key, but there were always people who made him have no choice but to be high-profile. Old Chen's matter made Bufang's heart choke with anger. I actually lost. The fifth group's Heaven Chief stared blankly at his dish shattering. His immortal energy dissipated, and his eyes were filled with despair. The others also had the same expression. His knife skill was defeated, and his dish was also defeated. He was utterly defeated, utterly defeated. Don't worry. There's something that will make you feel even more despair, Bufang said casually. The 10 groups of immortal chefs outside the arena sucked in a breath of cold air, their faces filled with sympathy as they looked at the 49 immortal chefs in the arena. The greatest sorrow in life was to meet the great demon. Xiao Buchuan's body shook violently. He was scared. What are you afraid of? Xiao Buque glanced at Xiao Buchuan and shouted coldly. No. Brother, you don't know how terrifying that guy is. Xiao Buchuan's face was full of fear. Thinking about what would happen next, his mind shivered. What? Xiao Buque was bewildered. Then, he turned to look at the arena. At first glance, his heart seemed to be squeezed by an invisible hand. That scene. He would never forget it. A magic array emerged under Bufang's feet. The crystal knife cabinet emerged. Bufang expressionlessly reached out his hand, patting the cabinet. Instantly, the cabinet opened. In the arena, the Heaven Chief watched in despair as his kitchen knife soared into the sky, turning into a torrent, sweeping toward Bufang's cabinet. No. The fifth group's Heaven Chief reached out his hand in despair. He couldn't lose his kitchen knife. However, just as he was about to grab the kitchen knife, there was a sudden clap of thunder in the sky. The terrifying will of the heavenly path descended, causing their bodies to stiffen on the spot. Swish! The kitchen knives seemed to turn into a torrent, hovering around Bufang's body. Then, they entered the cabinet. Bufang's palm slowly brushed the cabinet. Indifferently, he looked at those people. I wanted to keep a low profile. I didn't want to have a chef's challenge. Unfortunately, you forced me, Bufang said. Little Dit gawked, dropping his jaw. His spirit fruits fell to the ground. He couldn't believe it. A moment later, he excitedly patted the table. Chef's challenge. This is a chef's challenge. It's so interesting. These lazy little fellows, who don't have the slightest sense of urgency, should experience this chef's challenge. It's the best way to promote their progress. Little Dit's eyes sparkled when he saw the chef's challenge. The young people in the Heaven Chief realm had the best resources, but they didn't want to improve. Their cooking skills were getting worse with each generation. If they could popularize the chef's challenge, there would be more and more top Heaven Chief realm. No wonder the will of the Great Path recognized the chef's challenge. This chef's challenge could happen. In the arena, Bufang gently patted the cabinet. The thousands of kitchen knives in the cabinet glowed, sinking into the magic array. He put away the cabinet. Bufang's eyes fell on the spicy strip on the stove. Now he could finally taste the spicy strip. Chapter 1040. Finally, he could taste the spicy strip. This was a brand new spicy strip made with a brand new recipe. It was a refreshing, refined, and unpretentious spicy strip. Although the recipe was different, the taste was still the same. At least, when Bufang faced this spicy strip, his entire being was immersed in it. The taste of the enhanced abyssal chili sauce made Bufang feel a little intoxicated. That kind of tantalizing spicy flavor seemed to penetrate deep into his bones. Bufang looked at the spicy strip stuck in the ice on the porcelain plate. It was red and translucent, with immortal energy swirling around it. Moreover, it exuded a different kind of charm. Just looking at it was enough to make people immersed in it. It was an indescribable beauty. Thus, Bufang chose to eat it. Bufang had made thousands of spicy strips, but now, he only had this one in his heart. Outside the arena, the onlookers were already stunned. The fifth layer's heaven chief had failed once again. Moreover, he was ruthlessly crushed by the great demon in a cooking competition. The great demon was really the great demon. He fought against 49 opponents alone, and he still won. He actually triggered 3 lightning punishments. That was 3 lightning punishments. Among the immortal chef, only the top heaven chief of the fifth layer could do that. The great demon king was unexpectedly able to cook a dish with 3 lightning tribulations. He was indeed the shit stirrer of this year's Heaven Chief competition. He stirred up waves in the entire Heaven Chief competition. The appearance of the chef's challenge, the eruption of invincible power, how many more miracles could this great demon create? The audience was puzzled, but at the same time, they were looking forward to it. At this moment, following Bufang's gaze, everyone's mind involuntarily focused on that spicy strip. It was a strange dish. Everyone present was a heaven chief, so they naturally had their own judgment. Perhaps it could be called a dessert. That's right. It was more appropriate to call it a dessert, however. A dessert could trigger 3 lightning punishments. Moreover, he had fought against 49 immortal chefs alone, crushing all of them. One of them was the genius heaven chief from the 5th level? This little bit of effort was probably enough to ascend to the heavens. 49 immortal chefs were king defeated by a stick-like dish. Everyone wanted to laugh, but they couldn't. A product of the great demon could indeed create miracles. Little Dit was also a little curious about Bufang's dishes. Flapping its wings, it flew toward Bufang. From the looks of it, he seemed to want to taste Bufang's dishes. However, Bufang didn't give him any chance. With a shake of his hand, Bufang pulled out the chili strip from the pile of ice and stuffed it into his mouth. The spicy strip entered his mouth. The first thing that came out was a sweet aroma. This was the sweet aroma of the enhanced abyssal chili sauce, a taste that seemed to permeate into one's bones. Bufang felt his entire body go limp. Holding the chili strip in his mouth, the taste of the chili strip flowed through his saliva and spread in his mouth, making Bufang quiver. Moreover, when the immortal energy gushed into his mouth, Bufang felt as if he had been thoroughly baptized. His entire spirit seemed to be sublimated. Without a doubt, this chili strip had an indescribable effect. From Bufang's experience, this chili strip seemed to be able to make his mental energy stronger and more condensed. Little Dit flapped his wings and landed. Looking at the chili strip that was taken away, he was a little angry. "You're a contestant, how could you eat the dish? The dish is for the judges to taste." Little Dit placed his hands on his hips, floating in front of Bufang. His lower body bloomed with a dazzling radiance, which was dazzling and eye-catching. His small eyes stared at Bufang, his mouth pouting, which made him look really cute. With the chili strip in his mouth, Bufang remembered that the little fellow in front of him was a flasher who liked to take off his clothes and run around instantly. Bufang felt that Little Dit's appearance was somewhat ferocious. Facing Little Dit's question, the corners of Bufang's mouth twitched, but he was too lazy to answer. He held the chili strip in his hand, sucking it in and out of his mouth. He had to admit that Hades' way of eating the chili strip did make some sense. At least, he could thoroughly taste the delicious taste of the chili strip. Watching Bufang eat with relish, Little Dit couldn't stand it anymore. With red eyes, he stared at Bufang. However, Bufang ignored his gaze. He pointed at the group of people in the arena, then at the black stone tablet in the sky. "I don't think there's any suspense in my dish. I don't need to taste and evaluate it," Bufang said. That was because all of his opponents had collapsed. Outside the arena, the onlookers were already used to this scene. Being the referee for the great demon, I'm afraid there will be a shadow in his heart. I feel sorry for the referee for a second. Meeting a contestant like the great demon, there will be a lot of trouble, and in the end, he will never be able to eat his dish from the preliminary until now. It seems that the referee has never tasted the great demon's dish. The onlookers were talking about it. They seemed to have seen through something. In the distance, the referee smiled bitterly. In this cooking competition, Bufang crushed everyone. No one else was able to become a dish. Only Bufang became a dish. The final winner was Bufang. Because there was only one dish. So, the final result was known without tasting it. The person with the highest ranking was, without a doubt, Bufang. This ranking competition was indeed somewhat out of everyone's expectations. Little Dit couldn't eat the spicy strip. He was so angry that he wanted to fight with Bufang. However, Bufang held the spicy strip in his mouth. He flicked his finger on Little Dit's head, sending him flying away. The first match of the ranking competition was over. However, the ranking match wouldn't end so quickly. There were still other contestants who had to compete in the arena. In the end, the basic ranking would be determined according to the common data. After the semifinals, there were 500 contestants left. The 500 contestants would have to compete in the ranking match. There would be 50 people in a group, so there would be 10 groups. Thus, after 10 groups, the final ranking would be determined. This ranking was based on the performance of each contestant. When Bufang was competing, the ranking match had already gone through 3 groups. Now there were only 6 groups left. Bufang didn't linger in the arena. Putting away his cooking utensils, he shoved his hands into the pockets of his vermilion robe, then left the arena. When Bufang got off the arena, the surrounding people looked at Bufang with fear and admiration. At this moment, Gongshu Ban was so excited that he didn't know what to say. Bufang's performance was beyond his estimation. With this kind of performance, if nothing unexpected happened, he could enter the top 100. Top 100. The Heaven Chief of the first layer had worked hard for so many years, but his best result was just around 100. Did Bufang break the record in the semifinals? If Bufang continued to win in the following matches, wouldn't he create an even more exciting miracle? Little Dit really wanted to find Bufang to settle accounts, but he couldn't find any flaw in Bufang's excuse. Thus, he could only sulk. However, in the next ranking match, he replaced Old Chen's position, gaining the qualification to taste the dishes. Instantly, he smiled happily. Bufang stood by Gongshu Ban. This kid was so excited that he couldn't find the north. All of a sudden, Bufang felt a sharp and blazing gaze on him. He couldn't help but turn his head to look. Bufang frowned. The owner of that gaze was a mysterious Heaven Chief in a black cloak. If Bufang wasn't wrong, the mysterious Heaven Chief in the black cloak was the one who had eliminated Gongshu Ban. The black-cloaked Heaven Chief that Gongshu Ban didn't even dare to hold his knife. This gaze, the sharp and hot gaze of the black-cloaked Heaven Chief, made Bufang feel strange and suspicious. It seemed familiar. The black-cloaked man looked at Bufang for a long time. Leaving a strange laughter, he turned around and left. Soon, he disappeared from Bufang's sight. However, this black-cloaked man had left an impression in Bufang's heart. If Bufang did not remember wrongly, this black-cloaked man should have grasped the heart of Cooking Path. Otherwise, it was impossible that Gongshu Ban couldn't even hold his knife. To that extent, even Bufang couldn't do it. Bufang couldn't think of any method that could make Gongshu Ban lose the courage to hold his knife. Knife power? Impossible. Knife power would only appear after using the knife skill. Basically, it was impossible to make Gongshu Ban unable to hold his knife. Then, the remaining explanation was that the black-cloaked man relied on the heart of Cooking Path. Regarding the heart of Cooking Path, Bufang's curiosity was extremely strong. Because of the system's task, he needed to condense the heart of Cooking Path in the competition. And today, he finally came in contact with this high level. Looking at the back of the black-cloaked man as he left, Bufang felt that the next time he met him, he might need to ask him for advice. The rest of the qualifying matches weren't as intense as the one with Bufang. However, the competition was still fierce and explosive. Of course, compared to Bufang's match, it wasn't as fun. It was much more dull. In the next period of time, finally, the qualifying matches were over. At the end of the last qualifying match, all the contestants gathered, their faces solemn as they lifted their heads, gazing at the black stone tablet in the sky. That stone tablet was the tool to record their rankings. Little Dit was surrounded by a group of judges. Flapping his wings, he placed his hands on his waist as he announced the end of the qualifying matches. Buzz, a wave of energy rippled out. Everyone was excited and fearful, lifting their heads to look at the stone tablet. They wanted to know their ranking. Xiao Buke took a deep breath. He looked at Bufang, his eyes extremely solemn. He knew that Bufang's ranking this time wouldn't be too bad. On the stone tablet, golden light sparkled. A series of densely packed names immediately appeared on the stone tablet. Everyone's eyes were glued to the stone tablet. They were all searching for their ranking. The stone tablet recorded the top 500. Hence, the name below 500 couldn't be listed. Gongshu Ban couldn't be listed, which was a regret in his heart. However, at this moment, he didn't feel too regretful. Quite the contrary, he was so excited to help Bufang find his ranking. His heart was filled with anticipation. 200, 100, 180, 160. Not even. Gongshu Ban's eyes bloomed with radiance. A moment later, his eyes focused as he found Bufang's name on the stone tablet. However, when his eyes moved and saw the ranking, Gongshu Ban was completely dumbstruck. His mouth dropped as if he could stuff an egg inside. His eyes widened as if he couldn't believe it. 80? My eyes aren't deceiving me, right? Gongshu Ban was dumbstruck. He swallowed his saliva as he couldn't believe it. Owner Bu had entered the Heaven Chief competition's 100th place? Did he just break the record so easily? Gongshu Ban felt the corners of his eyes moisten. Why did he have the urge to cry? How many years had it been since the first layer had this kind of result? If the first layer's Heaven Chief knew this news, he would be so excited. At this moment the others were also in an uproar. Bufang's ranking had surprised everybody. They didn't expect that the Great Demon's ranking would be so high. It should be known that the Heaven Chief competition's ranking included the monstrous geniuses of the 5th layer. There were at least dozens of geniuses in the 5th layer, and the top 60 were basically all taken. Thus, the remaining 50 places were the highlight of the fierce competition. The Great Demon was ranked 86th, it was unbelievable. This meant that Bufang was at least one of the top rankers in this ranking competition. This Great Demon really exploded. Gongshu Ban was so happy. He couldn't wait to send this news back to the first layer of the Heaven Chief competition. At the same time, Heaven Chief competition's first layer, Immortal City, City Lord Mansion. Sitting in the main hall of the City Lord Mansion, Tong Wudi, who was deep in thought, suddenly felt something. Frowning, he suspiciously looked in the direction of the City Lord Mansion, where the teleportation array was located. A moment later, Tong Wudi's eyes shrank. He seemed to remember something. Energy burst out from his body as he dashed towards the teleportation array. A terrifying wave of energy burst out from the teleportation array. The energy that almost suffocated Tong Wudi made his dashing body freeze. Inside the array, 4 silhouettes slowly appeared. As soon as the 4 of them appeared, the void seemed to shake violently, as if it was about to set off huge waves. The light dispersed, revealing the 4 figures. When Tong Wudi saw the 4 of them, his mind shivered. Instantly, he respectfully bowed, "Welcome, 4 city lords." Facing the respectful Tong Wudi, the 4 people's eyes were incomparably calm. The leader just glanced at Tong Wudi, then faintly said, "That dog. Where is it?" Chapter 1041. That dog. Where is it? The leader was a stern, middle-aged man. His gaze was indifferent as he looked at Tong Wudi. It was just a look, but it made Tong Woody feel incomparable pressure. There were 3 men and 1 woman. The woman was beautiful, but it wasn't the kind of beauty that came with heavy makeup. It was a kind of orchid that quietly bloomed. These 4 were the remaining city lords of the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th layer of the immortal city of the Heaven Chief realm. It was Tong Woody's first time seeing these city lords, so he was a little nervous. Originally, the 5 city lords of the immortal city were all Qilin chef. When the 5 of them joined forces, they could even fight against the realm lord. However, with the unexpected fall of the first city lord, the whole situation was broken. Tong Woody was very clear that although he was the city lord of the first layer, compared to these city lords, he wasn't qualified. Whether it was in terms of culinary skills or cultivation, there was more than one level between them. He was about the same as Mu Yang. That dog is in a small restaurant in the immortal city. I am the city lord of the first layer of the immortal city. Tong Woody. Tong Woody said respectfully to the 4 city lords. The respectful expression on his face didn't seem fake. The middle-aged man in the lead gave Tong Woody an indifferent look. Tong Woody? No matter who you are. If the information you say is false, you know the consequences. The middle-aged man was indifferent. Tong Woody wasn't worthy of his attention. A mere city lord who hadn't been recognized by the realm lord. Why would he put him in his eyes? This time, because of the news of that dog, the 4 city lords of the immortal city all came to the first layer. This kind of commotion was really big. They didn't care about the advice of the realm lord's representative, Yaya, and insisted on dealing with that dog. They were also under a lot of pressure. Yes. This is related to the safety of the Heaven Chief realm. As the city lord of the immortal city, I naturally don't dare to be negligent. Tong Woody said. In the next instant, he took the lead and walked forward. He brought the 4 of them out of the teleportation array. City Lord Feng, this Tong Woody is really interesting. He keeps talking about the immortal city's city lord. An enchanting young man pinched his thumb and middle finger and covered his mouth as he laughed. The others also smiled. He's just a clown. Our goal this time is that dog. The middle-aged man called City Lord Feng wore a solemn face. So many years have passed. I don't know how that dog's injuries have recovered. With the strength of the 4 of us, I'm afraid it'll be a bit difficult, a white-robed youth said indifferently. City Lord Liu, you don't need to worry. Our City Lord Feng. Ever since he was humiliated by that dog, he became the master of dog meat and killed thousands of dogs in the world. Now there is not a single dog spirit beast in the 5th floor of Heaven Chief realm. Even the close relatives of dogs, the wolves, are almost extinct in the 5th floor of Heaven Chief realm. The man with his thumb and middle finger said with a smile. City Lord Feng's dog-killing knife technique is the best in the world. Why do I feel like you're mocking me? City Lord Feng said coldly. Don't talk anymore. Let's go there. Don't let that dog get the news and run away. The orchid-like woman couldn't help but open her mouth. She interrupted their quarrel. Tong Woody smacked his tongue. These 4 city lords of Immortal City weren't as cold and aloof as he had imagined. One was cold and aloof, one was arrogant, one was a sissy, and one was a virtuous lady. It was really interesting. Our little sister Mengqi is sensible. The man with his thumb and middle finger covered his mouth as he laughed. As they walked out of the city lord's mansion, Tong Woody sped up. Although the 4 people behind him were playing and joking, the pressure they gave him was really big. Under this pressure, his body shivered unceasingly. The real experts at the city lord level made him feel the so-called power. He had always been looking forward to it. He wanted to unite the 4 city lords and expel that dog from the Heaven Chief realm. And now it seemed it would happen soon. As long as he didn't have that dog, that small restaurant would be razed to the ground in just a blink of an eye. That Bufang, who had a deep grudge against the Tong family, must be punished severely. It's the head of the Tong family, Tong Wudi. Wrong. From now on, we should call him City Lord Tong. The Tong family is really cunning. The entire Mu family was uprooted in just one night. It's too scary. When the people around saw Tong Wudi, they couldn't help but whisper. Everybody knew about the incident in the City Lord's mansion. Although it didn't cause a big commotion, the Mu family's immortal flame had been burning for 3 days. That kind of grand scene had attracted many people's attention. At this moment, people were curious about what Tong Wudi was going to do in such a hurry. The 4 people behind Tong Wudi also made people keep quiet out of fear. It seems City Lord Tong has done something unusual. The man with his thumb and middle finger laughed. The man who pinched his thumb and middle finger said with a smile. This guy had a lot to say and there was no end to his words. Of course, Tong Wudi didn't dare to ignore him like City Lord Feng. He hurried to welcome him with a smile. "Zo lords, what are you talking about? I've just become the new City Lord, so I can't convince the public yet," Tong Wudi said. Then, his eyes brightened. He pointed at the small restaurant in the distance. "It's here. That dog is in there," Tong Wudi said in a low voice. As soon as Tong Wudi's voice faded, the 4 city lords behind him swept away their previous lazy attitudes, and their eyes suddenly shot out a bright light. City Lord Feng had a cold face. A kitchen knife appeared in his hand. That kitchen knife looked exaggerated, but its murderous aura made everything within 10 miles feel as cold as ice. The quiet, orchid-like woman wore a chef robe that was as thin as a cicada's wings. Her elegant robe fluttered, and thick immortal energy diffused. The handsome young man in the white robe shook his hand, and a black iron bowl appeared in his hand. There were mysterious patterns carved on the surface of the bowl. The last one was the man with his thumb and middle finger. He was holding a big wok, which didn't match his style at all. The 4 city lords were vigilant, which made Tong Wudi feel pressured. Squeak, under the vigilant eyes of the 4, the door of the restaurant called Heaven Chief Restaurant slowly opened. The squeaking sound that seemed to come from ancient times resounded in people's ears. A moment later, the eyes of the 4 city lords shrank. A fat dog slowly walked out of the restaurant with graceful cat-like step. Walking to the door, the fat dog lifted its head to look at the 5 people. "Finally, you guys are here. Since the exhibitionist has been here, you guys should be here soon." Lord Go's magnetic and gentle voice echoed in the air. A moment later, his voice faded. Lord Go raised his exquisite dog paw at the 5 of them. Including Tong Wudi, the pupils of the 5 people shrank. The semi-finals were over. Bu Feng was ranked at the top of this year's competition with the 80th place. This title wasn't bad. At least to Gongshu Ban, it was a rank that made him cry tears of joy. Bu Feng had created a record in the first layer of the Heaven Chief world. It made the Heaven Chief of the Heaven Chief world, who was in the first layer, heave a sigh of relief. Since the semifinals were held in the 3rd layer of the Heaven Chief world, it would take a long time for the news to reach the first layer. However, Gongshu Ban believed that all the Heaven Chief would be so excited when they got the news. Compared to Gongshu Ban's excitement, Bu Feng was very calm. To him, this rank was far from enough. The system's task was to enter the top 10 of the Heaven Chief World competition. Only then would he have the chance to collect the last fragment of the God of Cooking set. Exchange for the God of Cooking set. He didn't care about the crazy Gongshu Ban. Bu Feng pulled Cici's small hand. Xiao Bai followed behind Bu Feng, walking toward the teleportation array. After the semifinals, they needed to go to the 4th layer of the Heaven Chief world for the promotion match. The requirements of the promotion match were stricter than the semifinals. It required the top 200 contestants of the Heaven Chief World competition to participate. From these 200 contestants, 50 would be selected to enter the 5th layer of the Heaven Chief World to compete in the final competition. The competition in the 5th layer was the fiercest, because reaching the 5th layer meant that one could compete with the real monstrous geniuses. In fact, in the fourth layer, Bufang's group would have the chance to meet the top monstrous geniuses of the fifth layer. Although the top 10 contestants wouldn't participate, starting from the 11th place, they would participate in the promotion match. There was only one rank difference between the 11th and the 10th. However, it was the difference between the young generation of the Heaven Chief World Kings and Challengers. Gongshu Ban didn't choose to return to the first layer. Instead, he followed Bufang's footsteps, entering the fourth layer. He favored Bufang a lot. He thought that Bufang had a chance to enter the top 50. It was something he didn't even dare to think about. Stepping into the teleportation array, there weren't many people in the array. After all, one day had passed since the semifinals. Today, most of the contestants had entered the fourth layer. Bufang was considered slow. However, there were still people in the array. Moreover, they were all Bufang's acquaintances. They were Xiao Buke and the 99 elder sisters, whom Bufang had met when he was strolling around. When Xiao Buke and the others saw Bufang, the atmosphere became a little awkward. However, Bufang's eyes didn't fall on them. Instead, his gaze fell on a figure wrapped in a black cloak, who was standing quietly in the corner. Behind that black-cloaked man, there was an even bigger black-cloaked man. Similarly, people couldn't see his appearance clearly. However, Bufang always felt that these two people were somewhat familiar. From the moment Bufang stepped into the array, there were faintly discernible gazes locking on him. Bufang stared at the two black-cloaked men, but the latter didn't look at him. The atmosphere was really awkward. However, the teleportation array was fast. In less than half a cup of tea's time, they had reached the fourth layer, the most luxurious layer of the Heaven Chief world. As soon as they arrived at the fourth layer, Bufang seemed to be a little absent-minded. The towering buildings that pierced through the clouds, the palaces that were built on the mountain peaks as far as the eye could see, everything looked so luxurious and grand. Bumpkin, do you feel that everything is so strange? Something that has never seen the world. The 99 elder sister seemed to feel Bufang's surprise. She felt that she could finally hold her head high, so she ridiculed him for a while. The City Lord of the fourth layer of the Heaven Chief world, City Lord Mingqi, is the only female among the 5-layer masters. She built the most luxurious layer, the immortal city of the fourth layer, which is the city that all the Heaven Chief yearns for. The 99 elder sister said. She seemed to feel that she could finally save some face. Creak. The light of the ceiling array disappeared. The two black-cloaked men instantly walked out. All of a sudden, the tall black-cloaked man stopped in his tracks. His gaze seemed to fall on Bufang. Stupid cow, why are you in a daze? Let's go. In the distance, the hoarse voice of the black-cloaked man resounded. Those words made Bufang frown even more. He seemed to have seen these two people somewhere before. The sense of familiarity was too strong. However, Bufang didn't think too much about it, because the two people quickly disappeared. The 99 elder sister was still showing off her knowledge. Obviously, she held this city in high esteem. That was natural. After all, it was the only immortal city with a female city lord. Naturally, the female Heaven Chief would admire it. Standing on the fourth layer, Bufang raised his head. He could already see the dense fruits on the heaven tree, which were already surrounded by immortal energy. There was even a strange intent surging on them. Bufang had a feeling that he was getting closer to the so-called space of the heaven tree. Chapter 1042. Tong Wudi's pupils shrank. He felt as if his entire body was enveloped by a terrifying energy, and he felt a chill run down his spine. In his eyes, the dog's paw seemed to cover the sky and the sun. It enlarged unceasingly, attacking him. Next to him, the 4 city lords had already become incomparably solemn. Facing this dog, they didn't dare to be careless. As city lords, they knew how terrifying this dog was. It should be known that this dog was a formidable existence that could bite a hole in the great path of the Heaven Chief realm. Rumble! 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 The 4 city lords emitted a terrifying aura that could shatter the void. The entire first layer of the Heaven Chief realm trembled unceasingly under this terrifying aura. Tong Wudi felt as though his breath had stopped. This was the Immortal City's City Lord. This was the real existence at the City Lord level. Facing the dog's paw, the 4 City Lords roared at the same time, attacking with their own technique. All kinds of lights collided with the dog's paw, creating earth-shaking explosions. City Lord Feng's eyes were bright. His indifferent face showed a fanatical look. The kitchen knife in his hand swung, and the entire space seemed to be filled with knife light. The knife light slashed at the fat dog behind the dog's paw. Boom! Rumble! Boom! The sound of the collision echoed unceasingly. An earth-shaking collision happened. Dog slaughtering knife technique. Slash! The saber light was like a dragon. With a loud roar, the saber light seemed to have a mind of its own as it gathered together and turned into a large saber. At this moment, the entire Immortal City seemed to be in danger. City Lord Mengqi was wearing a long robe. That long robe had immortal energy twirling around it. Her body floated up into the void. Her hands formed a hand seal, and the immortal energy on the robe expanded, covering the entire Immortal City. At this moment, the Immortal City, which was in danger, stabilized. The 4 city lords were fighting against the black dog. At this moment, Tong Wudi's eyes were filled with heat. Such a scene was rare to see. He didn't know when the 4 city lords would attack with all of their powers. Zhou Lords, who had pinched his thumb and middle finger, also made his move. In the blink of an eye, the black wok in his hand grew bigger, and he smashed it at the black dog. Boom, boom, boom. The resplendent brilliance was dazzling and eye-catching. No one knew how long it lasted. This battle finally ended the clamor. Tong Wudi stared into the distance, dumbfounded. Over there, the void was collapsing unceasingly, and the houses around the restaurant were all turned into ruins. City Lord Feng held the kitchen knife, gasping for breath. His eyes were filled with excitement. Zhou Lords carried the black pot and pinched an orchid in his hand. City Lord Lu, on the other hand, held the black iron bowl with a gentle look in his eyes. The terrifying dog paw slapping down from the void disappeared. It was worn down by the 3 city lords. You dog, your injuries really haven't healed yet. Is this all you've got? City Lord Feng held the kitchen knife. His chest heaved up and down, and his eyes sparkled. In the distance, Lord Go strode his cat-like steps slowly in the void. His dog eyes calmly looked at the 4 of them. City Lord Feng's eyes shrank. A moment later, a knife slashed down. The knife slashed, and the dog disappeared. It seemed to become one with the knife, slashing horizontally. The void shattered unceasingly. Lord Go didn't dodge. Facing this knife, he raised his dog paw, slapping forward. He wanted to use his dog paw to shake the dog-slaughtering knife technique. Swoosh! The dog paw and the knife collided. There was no earth-shaking explosion. There was no collision that frightened City Lord Feng. The knife slashed down. Lord Go's body was cut into 2 halves. What? City Lord Feng's eyes shrank. When the kitchen knife chopped the black dog into pieces, City Lord Feng was very excited. However, after a second of excitement, he realized something was wrong. That black dog couldn't be that weak. His eyes shot out a sharp light. City Lord Feng shouted. However, no blood splashed, and no energy poured out. Lord Dog was torn to shreds. In the end, with a loud bang, white smoke billowed, turning into a strand of dog fur that had been cut in half, falling from the sky. Dog fur? The eyes of the 4 city lords shrank. How could it be just a strand of dog fur? City Lord Feng's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Did his dog-slaughtering knife technique just cut off a strand of dog fur? The dog fur disappeared. The restaurant's door closed. A moment later, a gust of wind blew. Everything was silent. The air was stagnant to the extreme. Tong Woody's entire body shivered. How could it be a strand of dog fur? Impossible. He had confirmed that dog's identity. The other party had a real body. It couldn't be a strand of dog fur. We were tricked. However, that black dog is really terrifying. Just a strand of dog fur forced us to use so many tricks. City Lord Lu pondered for a while, then finally opened his mouth. His voice was solemn. Were they tricked? They were definitely tricked. That black dog had only left a strand of dog fur to deal with them. It didn't put them in its eyes at all. Where's the dog? Where's the dog? City Lord Feng couldn't restrain his anger. He realized that he had been tricked. He felt like a flame was burning on his face. Looking at the restaurant's closed door, City Lord Feng shouted. City Lord Feng shouted and slashed down with his blade. That black dog must be in the restaurant. Rumble. Spirit energy filled the sky, congregating into a kitchen knife. That kitchen knife slashed down, aiming at the restaurant. However, the moment the knife light was about to hit the restaurant, the unparalleled knife light scattered in just a blink of an eye. Rumble. A terrifying rebounding force suddenly burst forth. It hit City Lord Feng, sending him flying backward. He couldn't help but spurt a mouthful of blood. City Lord Mingqi, the Zhou Lords, and the others shrank their eyes. They couldn't believe what they were seeing in that restaurant. Something was wrong with that restaurant. In the Heaven Chief world, on the top floor, in front of the wooden house, Yaya, wearing a brocade robe, was pacing in front of the door. All of a sudden, her mind flickered, looking in a direction suspiciously. There, the void suddenly distorted, and in the next moment, turned into a hole. 3 figures slowly walked out of that hole. The leader was a fat black dog walking like a cat. Behind the black dog was a bald man and a slender, elegant, and young girl. Yaya looked at the 3 silhouettes, especially the one in the lead. Her eyes narrowed. The 4th layer was where the advancement competition was held. Bu Feng and the others were accommodated in an inn in the inner circle of the Immortal City. The 4th layer's Immortal City was much more prosperous than the other Immortal Cities. Thus, while strolling around, they could feel the thick commercial atmosphere. He didn't wander around the Immortal City for too long. Instead, he came to the Immortal Tree Square. Each Immortal City had a Heaven Tree Square, and the competition was held at the Heaven Tree Square. This time, the Heaven Tree Square was really lively. Compared to the other layers, it was much more lively. The Heaven Tree Square was also decorated. The 4th layer's Heaven Tree Square was huge. Around the square, there was a slanted audience stand. If one had to give a direct impression, those audience stands were similar to the large stadiums in his previous life. There were seats everywhere. Every seat was filled with people. The Heaven Chief competition was a grand event in the Heaven Chief realm. Thus, there were no empty seats. There were even fierce shouts that resounded endlessly. Suddenly, Bu Feng felt as though he was in an arena. The 4th layer's atmosphere was really different. In a corner of the Heaven Tree Square, there was a huge light screen that shot up to the sky. That light screen was made of arrays, and many arrays operated at the same time. On the huge light screen, it could capture the entire scene in the square. As Bu Feng's assistant, Gongshu Ban held Cece's hand and stood under the arena, looking forward to Bu Feng's performance. Actually, it was already a surprise that Bu Feng could reach this stage. Gongshu Ban didn't dare to hope for too much. He just hoped that in the following time, Bu Feng wouldn't lose too badly. On the vast arena, 200 contestants were already standing. To be exact, there were 190 contestants. None of the top 10 contestants appeared. In this ranking competition, there was no need for the top 10 contestants to appear. Also, the rules of this ranking competition were different from the previous ones. This ranking competition could also be considered a challenge competition. The contestants with lower rankings would challenge the contestants with higher rankings. In this way, they could raise their ranking. Starting from the 200 contestants, they would gradually challenge the level. The 200 contestants could only challenge the 190 contestants, and so on. Thus, it was impossible to reach the sky in one step and challenge the 11th contestant. And since Bufang was ranked 80, he could challenge the 70 contestant, and so on. On the arena, the referee was explaining the rules of this match. Everyone was listening attentively. In this ranking competition, 40 contestants would be selected to participate in the finals of the 5th layer. Thus, the 4th layer's competition was the most intense, and also the most interesting. It was also the reason why there were so many people paying attention to it compared to the previous 2 matches. Now, the ranking competition begins. Each of you will have a jade talisman. To prevent the situation of challenging the same person at the same time, each of you only has one chance to challenge. Once you fail, it means that your journey in the Heaven Chief competition will end with your original ranking. So, I wish you all good luck. The referee said. Besides the referee, the judges from the 3rd layer were also present. Bufang was among them, and he even saw Little Dit, who was flapping his wings. That fellow seemed to be addicted to being a judge. Bufang got his jade talisman. His mind sank into it, and he began to feel the changes of the jade talisman. The rules of the challenge were simple. As long as you succeeded in the challenge, you could continue to challenge. But, if you failed, it meant that you would maintain your ranking, and you would have to get lost. It was a simple and direct rule, but it was the most effective one. Now, it was time for the 200th place to challenge. Bufang's mind sank into the jade talisman, which contained a unified ranking list. Among them, Bufang saw many names flashing with red light. Apparently, these were the people who had been challenged. Leaving the arena for the challengers, Bufang walked to the bottom of the arena. He began to watch the competition. On the arena, the contestants were also in their positions. There was a deafening roar from the audience. This kind of enthusiastic atmosphere made Bufang squint his eyes involuntarily. Soon, the competition went on like a raging fire. Since Bufang had nothing to do, he began to observe the competition on the arena. None of the Heaven Chief who could reach this step was weak. They all had their own cooking skills. When it came to the ranking competition, they would take out their best moves. Hence, these competitions were worth watching. Suddenly Bufang saw a familiar figure. It was the black-cloaked man. He was the black-cloaked man who had killed Gongshu Ban. At this moment, the black-cloaked man was competing with his opponent. It was the same move, the same method. The pressure from the black-cloaked man made his opponent lose his grip on his kitchen knife. Instantly, his skill deviated. His dish was messed up, and he couldn't even trigger the lightning punishment. Without a doubt, the black-cloaked man easily advanced and continued to challenge. Looking at that relaxed black-cloaked man, Bufang's eyes couldn't help but squint. The Heaven Chief competition continued. Bufang was also observing each contestant. All kinds of strange dishes were displayed in front of Bufang. Bufang also benefited a lot. Sometimes, observing creative dishes would also benefit Bufang a lot. Like a wheel, the ranking competition continued. Some challenged successfully to refresh their ranking, while some failed and left with regret. The arena was a cruel battlefield. Only the winner could walk to the end. Buzz, all of a sudden, Bufang's token vibrated. Bufang was bewildered, his mind sinking into it. He saw his name on the token start to flash with red light. Bufang was challenged. Chapter 1043. Bufang was challenged? Bufang looked at the red name on the jade talisman, slightly bewildered. Then, his face returned to normal. He was challenged. Well, it was normal. However, Bufang was curious that someone dared to challenge him. In the Heaven Chief competition, he was called the Great Demon. What was the Great Demon? It meant that those who had competed with him in cooking were all miserable. And Bufang had chosen to be high profile in this Heaven Chief competition. He would challenge until the end of time. He didn't expect that someone dared to challenge him. Bufang's heart was a little excited, which was rare for him. My kitchen knife, can't wait any longer. Bufang gently exhaled, speaking excitedly. In the next instant, Bufang took a step forward and stepped onto the arena. Gongshu Ban saw Bufang step forward, and he was a little bewildered. Then, he seemed to understand something, his eyes showing worry. What should come would always come. Owner Bu. Finally, someone challenged him. He hoped that Owner Bu could endure it. When he stepped onto the arena, the black-cloaked man had just finished challenging another person, walking down the stage. Bufang and the black-cloaked man brushed past each other. Owner Bu, I hope you won't let me down. The black-cloaked man's slightly hoarse voice rang in Bufang's ears. Bufang was a little bewildered, turning his head to look. He happened to see the back of the black-cloaked man. That back seemed a little familiar. Calling him Owner Bu, it seemed that he was an acquaintance. Except for Gongshu Ban from the first layer and the people from the Hidden Dragon Continent who called him Owner Bu, the contestants in this Heaven Chief competition basically called him the Great Demon. Thus Bufang was very curious. Who was this black-cloaked man? He dared to play mysterious with him. Bufang stepped onto the arena. When many people saw Bufang, they burst into an uproar. It's the Great Demon! My God, there's actually someone challenging the Great Demon? Who has such courage? I was looking forward to who the Great Demon would challenge. I didn't expect the Great Demon to be challenged first. Below them, many people saw how calm Bufang was, and they couldn't stay calm anymore. They whispered to each other, chattering non-stop. At the same time, Bufang's face was projected on the huge light screen. Obviously, many people were paying attention to Bufang. The audience on the fourth floor naturally did not know who Bufang was. However, after Bufang got on the stage, many people started to clamor, which made the audience suspicious. When the audience heard the Heaven Chief call Bufang the Great Demon, they became even more curious. The Great Demon! Why was the guy on the stage called the Great Demon? What qualifications did he have to be called the Great Demon? The referee looked at Bufang. Regarding Bufang, he was also very curious about how far this guy could go. To be able to trigger 3 lightning punishments, his talent was really terrifying. However, the monstrous geniuses on the 5th floor could basically trigger 3 lightning punishments. Bufang clasped his hands, standing on the stage. The wind blew the hem of his vermilion robe, making Bufang look elegant. Where's my opponent? Standing on the stage, Bufang waited for a long time, but he didn't see his opponent. Instantly, he looked at the referee in confusion. The referee also furrowed his brows. After a long time, below the stage, a Heaven Chief, trembling, stepped onto the stage. Without a doubt, this trembling Heaven Chief was the one who wanted to challenge Bufang. Sir Referee, can I say that I challenged the wrong person? However, to everyone's surprise, the first thing that the Heaven Chief said when he got on the stage was to complain to the referee with a bitter face. He had never thought that he would challenge the Great Demon. He had just won a challenge, but he was too excited, so his hands trembled, and he made the wrong choice. The opponent I chose, I have to finish the challenge with tears in my eyes. So what if I win? So what if I lose? The referee calmly looked at that contestant. This contestant had just won a challenge, and he was now ranked 98. His talent wasn't bad. However, his courage was a little weak. So what if I win? So what if I lose? That contestant wanted to cry, but no tears came out. This was the Great Demon. It would be good if he won, but if he lost, he would lose his knife. Bufang curiously looked at that contestant. It seemed that his hands were trembling. Don't be afraid. Relax. It's just a cooking competition, right? Just close your eyes and open your eyes, and it'll be over. Bufang's face was expressionless as he said gently. However, his words made that contestant's body tremble. Just close your eyes and open your eyes, and your knife would be gone. I choose to give up. Facing Bufang's comforting words, the Heaven Chief didn't hesitate to give up. The resolute look on his face caused the referee to be slightly stunned. Damn it! Give up? Why did he give up in the challenge? This was a challenge, so he had to be bold. Without waiting for the referee to say anything, the Heaven Chief turned around and dashed out of the arena. Bufang and the referee were left standing in the arena, dumbfounded. Of course, the audience in the spectator stands were also a little dumbfounded. Give up? Someone gave up in the advancement challenge? This was a little strange. This was the first time in so many years that someone had given up in a challenge. This, the great demon. Was he really that scary? He didn't move an inch, and he made the challenger give up. Was his personal charisma really that impressive? Actually, I didn't want it to be like this. Bufang helplessly shrugged, then walked down the arena. Gongshu Ban was excited. He didn't think that Bufang could easily keep his rank. Seeing Bufang come down, Gongshu Ban hurried forward. Owner Bu, you should consider which contestant you want to challenge next. Your challenge range is between the 79th and 70th place. Don't think too much. Don't be afraid. Just do it. It's just rank 70. Bufang was calm. His goal was the top 10. Since it was the top 10, it didn't matter who he challenged. Rank 70? Isn't it too risky? Gongshu Ban frowned. Risky? In my eyes, there's no risk. The corners of Bufang's mouth twitched. His mind flickered, sinking into the jade talisman. Without looking at the contestant's name, he directly chose rank 70. On the other side of the arena, a Heaven Chief wearing a blood-red chef's robe suddenly opened his eyes. A blood-red flame seemed to be dancing in his eyes. Someone wants to challenge me? Dongfang Hua narrowed his eyes. He didn't expect that someone would be so stupid to challenge him. It should be known. Dongfang Hua's goal was the top 50. Dongfang Hua stood up from his seat. As soon as he moved, he attracted the attention of the Heaven Chief. Dongfang Hua moved? Someone wants to challenge him? No way. Someone wants to challenge that madman. The monstrous Heaven Chief of the 4th layer. He's the terrifying Heaven Chief who wants to enter the top 50. Who's that stupid? The immortal chefs whispered and discussed among themselves. Dongfang Hua was cold, his face cold. It was a sharp contrast with his fiery red chef's robe. Striding forward, Dongfang Hua stepped onto the arena. Dongfang Hua was the monstrous Heaven Chief of the 4th layer. As soon as he stepped out, the audience boiled up. Many Heaven Chiefs' eyes focused when they saw Dongfang Hua. Xiao Buke also squinted. Dongfang Hua wasn't a bad contestant. His level wasn't lower than his. Who was that stupid? Xiao Buke's eyes moved, wanting to see who was so reckless to challenge Dongfang Hua. However, as soon as he saw it, his eyes shrank. Bufang walked onto the arena. We meet again. Bufang greeted the referee. You want to challenge Dongfang Hua? The referee was bewildered when he saw Bufang. Then, his face became odd. Who's Dongfang Hua? Bufang was bewildered. Then, he seemed to remember something, saying, You mean the Heaven Chief who ranks 70th? I chose him directly. I forgot to look at his name. Turns out he's called Dongfang Hua. The referee was speechless. Dongfang Hua also got on the arena. He saw Bufang. The great demon? Dongfang Hua twitched the corners of his mouth. His eyes seemed to have flames flickering as he said with a mocking tone. When Bufang and Dongfang Hua faced each other, the entire square was in an uproar. All the Heaven Chief became serious. No doubt this match would be a fierce battle between giants. The great demon had shown his ability. Fighting against 49 people alone, his cooking skill was really terrifying. He had reached the level of subduing the enemy without fighting. And Dongfang Hua was a famous monstrous talent of the 4th layer. For a moment, this match became the focus of the entire square. As for the audience, there was a one-sided cheer. Everyone was cheering for him. After all, it was his home match. Cheers echoed unceasingly. The great demon, right? I heard you like chef's challenges. You want to win people's kitchen knives? Dongfang Hua sneered. I can't say it's a hobby. Bufang thought for a while, wanting to say something. However, Dongfang Hua stopped him. No need to say anything. This match is still a chef's challenge. A chef's challenge proposed by me. The kind of chef's challenge where I can win a kitchen knife makes me very excited. Dongfang Hua said, raising his hand. Bufang could see that his hand was shaking. Okay, then let's start, Bufang said, his face emotionless. The audience burst into an uproar. A moment later, the chef's challenge on the stage began. The great demon against the monstrous talent of the fourth layer. Dongfang Hua. It could be said to be the match that made people's blood boil so far. More importantly, both sides had chosen a chef's challenge. Some people didn't understand what a chef's challenge was. Soon, the rules of the chef's challenge appeared on the massive light screen. After understanding the rules, the audience's eyes turned red. Holy **T. The loser has to hand over his kitchen knife. This chef's challenge is too cruel. Young Master Dongfang, beat him up. Beat that Stinky the Great Demon. Teach him a lesson. Win the Great Demon's kitchen knife. Let the Great Demon cry. The audience was so excited, cheering for Dongfang Hua. On the stage, Dongfang Hua's body also emitted a formidable aura. A blood-colored radiance pulsated in his eyes. Then, a blood-colored flame emerged from his body and transformed into a blood-colored flame snake that coiled around his body. The 55th immortal flame on the immortal flame ranking, the Blood Mamba Snake Flame, Dongfang Hua said casually. He raised his hand and the blood-colored flame moved around his palm. Buzz, his mind flickered, and a silver stove emerged, falling on the stage. Booming sounds reverberated unceasingly. Immortal energy twirled around the stove, and the other cooking tools also emerged, also shrouded in immortal energy. All of them weren't ordinary cooking tools. Dongfang Hua didn't use these cooking tools in the previous matches. Now, it seems Dongfang Hua is serious. When people saw Dongfang Hua's stove and cooking tools, their eyes shrank. Dongfang Hua held a silver kitchen knife in his hand. His finger gently stroked the knife, indifferently looking at Bufang. This is the glory of my life. This kitchen knife belongs to me. High-grade immortal tool, the silver pterosaur dragon bone knife. You can start to feel despair. The corners of Dongfang Hua's mouth rose, revealing an arrogant look. This the great demon could be proud of himself for using the silver pterosaur dragon bone knife. High-grade immortal tool. The surrounding people took in a breath of cold air. Worthy of being a monstrous genius. He even took out a high-grade immortal tool. It seemed this time that the great demon couldn't escape this calamity. Dragon bone knife? Dongfang Hua's words surprised Bufang. Dragon bone kitchen knife. This fellow also used the dragon bone kitchen knife? Arching his brows, Bufang looked at Dongfang Hua strangely. A moment later, he exhaled. His mind flickered. In his head, the golden dragon's soul instantly let out a deafening roar. Green smoke twirled around. In Bufang's hand, the golden dragon bone kitchen knife bloomed with gold light. What a coincidence! My kitchen knife is also the dragon bone knife. Chapter 1044. Seems like this competition will be interesting. The two of them clasped their hands, lifting their heads to watch the scene in the sky. The audience screamed in surprise. However, after the initial shock, they were so excited. Bufang, on the other hand, was calm. Gongshu Ban's face had turned bloodless. Everybody knew what it meant. It meant that the dark clouds had more than one lightning strike. Yeah. With old Shui's cultivation base, he died without a sound. It's so strange. City Lord Mengqi said. The audience clamored unceasingly, thinking that Dongfang Hu would win. A moment later, he threw himself into his cooking. Dongfang Hu's dish had immortal energy twirling around it. That's right, he had used the silver-winged dragon bone knife in his hand to cut it. Many people were captivated by the scene and revealed shocked expressions. Everybody knew that the two in the arena were going to have a chef's challenge. The silver pterosaur dragon bone blade spun in his hand, and waves of mysterious fluctuations spread out. In the sky, the dark clouds were so oppressive. However, the knife of such an existence couldn't cut the restaurant in half? Little Sister Mengqi is right. This small restaurant is definitely strange. City Lord Zhou, who was holding a wok and pinching his thumb and middle finger, took a deep breath. Dongfang Hu was right. Not all dragon bone kitchen knives could be considered high-grade immortal tools. Buzz Bufang thought for a while and made up his mind to cook a dish. When someone saw Bufang's dish, they were stunned. Someone screamed. Thunderous booms resounded incessantly. The thunder dragons were tearing and biting each other. The scene was so fierce. Lightning shot everywhere, and the explosions were unceasing. He just gave the restaurant a deep look. The monstrous heaven chief of the fourth layer was unstoppable. The black wok dashed fast, shattering the void. Bufang's dish was about to finish. Impossible! That dog left a strand of fur here. It means that the dog isn't here anymore. It's strange. It's all from this restaurant. He sealed the restaurant. Then, he turned around and left, dashing toward the City Lord Palace. So far, this match had attracted the greatest amount of pressure from the dark clouds. Zhou Lord's face was wrinkled like a chrysanthemum. He glanced at the restaurant with a hint of bitterness in his eyes. Then, the four city lords looked at each other. Suddenly, the stage was filled with immortal qi. Dongfang Hu's talent was astonishing, and he had obtained the dragon bone saber as a reward. This was his pride, his glory. Not all dragon bone kitchen knives are high-grade immortal tools, Dongfang Hu said. Then, his gaze fell on the kitchen knife in Bufang's hand, narrowing his eyes. Dongfang Hu's cooking was like a work of art. Whether it was his knife skills or his skill in controlling the fire, he could do it with ease. He spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. It's another F*King stick. Are you planning to hold up the sky until the end? City Lord Feng said. After saying that, the other three nodded. Many people raised their heads to look at the sky, and their pupils shrank. Bufang was a little bewildered. Bufang played with the dazzling golden dragon bone kitchen knife. The corners of his mouth rose as he looked at the referee and said, "The name of the dish, then." He turned around and walked to Bufang's dish. Damn it, could it be that the dog was behind all this? A heaven chief from the first layer had been arrogant for a long time. Finally, someone was going to teach him a lesson. The lightning tribulations of the two of them actually clashed together in mid-air. A stick could become a dish? He looked at Dongfang Hu, who was standing opposite him. Was it a tie? In the end, an invisible wave spread out like ripples in the sky, spreading out layer by layer. People screamed in fear. He threw the black wok in his hand. Everything that's related to that dog has become a little inconceivable. The black-cloaked man lifted his head, his strange eyes gazing at the void. The two thunder dragons of the triple lightning punishment clashed with each other, causing a shocking collision. A moment later hence, in the following chef's challenge, he had to win. He had to win the kitchen knife in Bufang's hand, which was called the dragon bone knife. Then, in front of the great demon king, he would smash that kitchen knife. The terrifying energy on the black wok disappeared after hitting the restaurant, falling to the ground. A tie? Down below, Dongfang Hu's dish was about to finish. The first thunder dragon tore and tore each other. Lightning sparks shot out. Eventually, with a booming sound, they perished together. The dish that defeated 49 opponents? The great demon chose this dish. Soon, the result would be revealed. The audience screamed in surprise. However, many people were more excited. The silver-winged dragon was an 8-star beast emperor from the 4th layer of the Heaven Chief realm. It was a stick stuck in a pile of ice chips. Then, let's call it Crayfish Brand Abyssal Spicy Strip. What would be the final result? No doubt, it would be another brutal slaughter from Dongfang Hua. Everybody's eyes stiffened. City Lord Feng could be considered the peak existence in the Heaven Chief realm. His power was just below the Realm Lord. In the arena, the blood-red flame unceasingly soared into the sky, creating a dazzling scene. The second lightning dragon rushed out of the black clouds and directly attacked, also ending in mutual destruction. Dongfang Hua's face became cold. OF*CK. Finally, he could evaluate the great demon's dish. No doubt, those ingredients were all extraordinary immortal ingredients. The black clouds above their heads disappeared almost at the same time. Gongshu Ban was so nervous that his palms were sweating. His eyes were filled with worry. In the next moment, they all performed hand seals, and waves of energy fell down. One array after another fell around the restaurant. Everybody took in a breath of cold air. We must report this restaurant to the Realm Lord. It's not a good thing for such a restaurant to appear in the Heaven Chief realm. In the sky, the Thunder Dragon bared its fangs and brandished its claws. It seemed the great demon was in trouble. Rumble, rumble. Her peerlessly beautiful face was filled with doubt. Her cooking was carried out in an orderly manner. Third-grade immortal dish. Myriad birds bowing to the phoenix. Dongfang Hua clasped his hands, looking extremely confident. What the heck was that restaurant? A weirdo among dishes. Rumble. Outside the arena. This silver pterosaur dragon bone knife is a reward from City Lord Mingqi. Don't compare your trash to my kitchen knife, arrogant. He doesn't put Dongfang Hua in his eyes. Facing Dongfang Hua, he doesn't even use his trump card. It's about to be cooked. The referee's figure flashed, appearing in front of Dongfang Hua's dish. The onlookers chattered and murmured. This time, Bu Fang was still cooking spicy strip. However, compared to the previous spicy strips, there were naturally some changes. Then, a terrifying wave of energy shot out from the restaurant. He took out the ingredients one by one and placed them on the stove. Both of them had cooked dishes that could trigger 3 lightning punishments. The audience couldn't help but exclaim in awe. Dongfang Hua. They didn't expect that owner Bu would choose Dongfang Hua as his opponent. He was happy to see Bu Fang fail in the chef's challenge. Dongfang Hua was a contestant that even he was afraid of. Just like City Lord Feng, he was also battered and exhausted. All kinds of birds were on it. Just by looking at it, a brutal aura came, making people take in a breath of cold air. The first layer of the Heaven Chief realm. Then, Dongfang Hua's face revealed a bright smile. How could it be? It was a dish that people were familiar with. It was a stick stuck on a pile of ice, which looked like a pillar reaching the sky. The great demon? He had beheaded all of them. The judges didn't even have a chance to taste it. It was the first time the audience had seen such a scene, so they couldn't help but be shocked. Bu Fang took out the ingredients from the system-dimensional bag. However, he couldn't feel any high-grade immortal tools' energy fluctuation from them. Both of them could cook dishes that could trigger 3 lightning punishments. There were no explosions or loud noises as he had imagined. Using this kind of kitchen knife to defeat him was simply funny. Bu Fang's dish shone with dazzling light. Perhaps its quality wasn't bad, but from the looks of it, the dragon bone kitchen knife that the great demon had mentioned wasn't even an immortal tool. Zolord's eyes gazed at that restaurant. Dazzling light shot out from Bu Fang's dish. What was the result? Zolords, who had taken the blame, discolored. Could be 2 or even 3. Tong Wudi was scared out of his wits. What happened? A moment later, he shouted. After all, he carefully picked up the dish. He didn't see any immortal energy around it. At this moment, the atmosphere became so heavy. His dish wasn't a side dish. It was a big dish. From a distance, it looked like a painting which was really exquisite. The audience clamored again. If that dog hadn't bitten the great path, old Shui wouldn't have fallen in the space of the heaven tree. And the chef's challenge, under the gazes of tens of thousands of people, his hand shook. However, that year, the silver-winged dragon didn't know what was good for it and wanted to attack the immortal city. In the end, City Lord Mengqi killed it, and its dragon bones were made into 3 dragon bone kitchen knives as a reward to the talented heaven chief of the 4th layer. Some people even stood up, roaring at the sky to cheer for Dongfang Hua's lightning punishment. Their laughter was full of ridicule, which was aimed at Bufang. City Lord Feng said, his eyes filled with deep hatred. Dongfang Hua wanted to crush the great demon to death. City Lord Mengqi said with a frown. Lightning flashed. All of the immortal chefs looked pensive. The kitchen knife in the great demon's hand shone with a dazzling gold light, which was so dazzling that it hurt people's eyes. This restaurant is really strange. It seems it has some profound principles. We can't shake it. That energy wave expanded. Dongfang Hua's words seemed to have resonated with the audience as they burst into laughter. Now, all that was left was the final result. Rumble. Tong Wudi was scared out of his wits. He didn't expect that the restaurant could resist City Lord Feng's attack. His power was really strong and he could destroy everything. Bufang's words bewildered Dongfang Hua, who was standing behind the silver stove. He had used all of his skills, but he could only tie with the great demon? The black pot hit the restaurant. The referee was a little excited. Xiao Buke's mouth curved into a cold smile. Dongfang Hua's dish was like a painting. His big plate was piled with many ingredients. The combination of the ingredients created a delicacy with immortal energy. There were phoenixes, eagles, birds, sparrows, and falcons. When the last stroke was done, thick immortal energy began to hover above Dongfang Hua's dish. A terrifying explosion swept the entire place. Each detail was frightening. Name of the dish? Asked the referee. Bufang and Dongfang Hua had finished cooking. That little restaurant. Was it really that awesome? He wouldn't allow Bufang to use the trash dragon bone kitchen knife to insult his kitchen knife. Dongfang Hua took in a breath of cold air. Black clouds quickly swept over, covering the sky. Dragon bone kitchen knife? It was time for the main event. The standard to judge the dish was the power of the lightning punishment. Of course, compared to the sneers and sneers of the others, it seemed to tear the air. Boom. Since the great demon had joined the competition, he had crushed all the others. This referee was just an empty title. The referee brought the dish to the judges' table. City Lord Feng clutched his chest, his face cold. Of course, even if he could make it, could it compare to Dongfang Hua's dish? All the judges in Heaven Chief's room were looking at the scene in the sky. A moment later, something happened that made them drop their jaws. The 3rd Thunder Dragon stormed down. Its terrifying pressure swept the entire place. Clenching his fists, he faced the sky and roared. Rumble! They found that the dish looked so familiar. There was a thud. The lightning bolt tore the sky. This time, he had added a lot of crayfish meat into the spicy strip. That was why it tasted so good. Every city lord's eyes were filled with surprise. Now it was time to evaluate the dish. The blood flame moved like an arm. Shortly after, the aroma filled the entire square. Chapter 1045. Yaya, who was wearing a brocade robe, was surprised to see Lord Go and the others walk out of the crack in the void. Oh, so this is the 5th floor of Heaven Chief Realm. It's quite artistic. The Black Dragon King rubbed his bald head, his eyes shining as he looked around. The wooden house was situated on the highest floor of the Heaven Chief Realm, which was higher than the 5th floor. Dense immortal energy revolved around the wooden house, making it look like a fairyland. Daughter, what do you think? The Black Dragon King grinned, looking at the slender and elegant young girl beside him. That young girl was slim and elegant with a sexy figure. Her green hair cascaded down her shoulders, and her exquisite face was like a work of art, with a touch of childishness and arrogance. If you don't talk, no one will think that you're mute. Glancing at the Black Dragon King, Hua said calmly. A moment later, her beautiful eyes fell on Lord Go, who was walking like a cat. Hua had finished her transformation. She was now a 3-colored, 7-colored sky-devouring python. Her appearance had also changed from a little girl to a young girl. The beautiful young girl was full of charm. Her every frown and smile had a beauty that could intoxicate people. Now, Hua could even speak fluently. Of course, the most important thing was Hua's strength. After the transformation, her cultivation base had increased greatly. Today, Hua's cultivation base was much stronger than before. However, it was only around the level of a 3-star true immortal realm expert. However, at least her cultivation base could suppress the Black Dragon King. Boom! Just as the Black Dragon King and Hua were quarreling, there was a sudden clamor in the wooden house. A moment later, a figure appeared in front of them. It was a familiar figure. His body was naked, and his golden hair fluttered. His melancholic eyes were filled with anticipation. It was Realm Lord Dit, who had returned to the 5th floor. Mangy dog, what are you doing in my 5th floor? This Realm Lord doesn't have the mood to play with you. This Realm Lord is someone who does great things. Realm Lord Dit glanced at Lord Go and said, No, I have nothing better to do, so I came out for a walk, Lord Go said faintly, his voice full of magnetism. World Overlord Dit's brows twitched. Only a ghost would believe the words of this dog. Given how lazy this lazy dog was, if it had nothing to do, it would probably just lie on the ground and sleep. How could it be possible for it to roam around? There was definitely something fishy about this. Then you can continue strolling. This Realm Lord still has important things to do, Realm Lord Dit said. After speaking, he turned around and returned to the wooden hut. Go ahead. I'll look for your assistant, Lord Go said faintly. Yeah, who was at the side, was extremely terrified. Lord Dog was looking for her. Lass, those fellows from the Immortal City should have come to look for you, right? Lord Go lay on the ground and lazily licked his claws as he said. Yaya's eyes widened. Those fellows from the Immortal City? Was he talking about the Immortal City's city lords? Yes, those city lords have already gone to the first layer of the Heaven Chief world. They should be looking for you, Lord Go, Yaya said. Oh. Then they might have a surprise, Lord Go said. Since they have gone to the first layer, lass. Tell the Lord Go where those fellows usually cultivate. The Lord Go has important things to do. Yaya was stunned. In the next moment, her eyes widened. Could it be that the Lord Go was thinking of? It's just a friendly greeting. Lass, don't think too much. Is the Lord Go that kind of dog? Lord Go said faintly. They have all gone to the first layer to greet the Lord Go. Naturally, the Lord Go will go to their cultivation places to get some good stuff. This is called reciprocity. As a city lord, the cultivation place and the city lord's mansion were definitely separate. The cultivation place was rather secretive. Only people like Yaya, who was in charge of many things in the Heaven Chief world, would know about it. This was also the reason why the Lord Go came to the 5th layer first. Otherwise, the Lord Go would have killed his way to the cultivation places of those city lords. Since the Lord Go had asked, how could Yaya not give it to him? Although Yaya wanted to refuse, the Lord Go's power was too strong. This made Yaya say it in the end. Looking at the two people and the dog who stepped into the crack in the void, Yaya wanted to cry but had no tears. Dear City Lords, Yaya has let you down. Crayfish brand abyssal spicy strips? What kind of ridiculous names are these? The judge was a little speechless, glancing at Bufang. That dish stuck in a pile of ice had such a tongue-twisting name. Since the lightning punishment had ended in a tie, the judges had to come out and taste the dishes. They would evaluate the strength of the two dishes and come to a conclusion. Both of their dishes were brought to the judges' table. The massive light screen also gave the two dishes a close-up. Needless to say, these two dishes had completely different styles. Dongfang Hua's dish, myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix, had used ingredients and knife skills to perfectly depict all kinds of birds under the heavens. All of them had been condensed into this dish. Each type of bird was carefully crafted using different ingredients. This dish looked like a perfect painting. It was so beautiful that it could intoxicate people. Immortal energy spiraled, twirling unceasingly. Just by looking at it, people could hear the phoenix's cry and all kinds of unique bird. Dongfang Hua was really confident in this dish. He had planned to use this dish to challenge the monster of the fifth layer. However, he hadn't thought that he would meet the great demon on this layer and have a chef's challenge. The chef's challenge was risky, and he couldn't afford to lose. That was why he had to bring this dish out. Although he had replaced many of the ingredients in this dish with low-grade ingredients, the meaning and level of this dish would definitely surpass that of the Great Demon King's dish. He was so confident. He really liked his dish. Myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix wouldn't lose to the Great Demon's stick, right? The audience had already begun to discuss the problem of the dish. Of course, they were more enthusiastic about Dongfang Hua's dish. No matter what, it was his home ground, and Dongfang Hua's support was much higher than Bufang's. No, it was a complete suppression. Almost no audience thought that Bufang would win. They all supported Dongfang Hua. No matter from the perspective of strength or the dish, the audience thought that Dongfang Hua would be the final winner. The 5 judges exchanged looks. Sitting in the middle was Little Dit, who was flapping his wings. The 5 judges tasted Dongfang Hua's dish first. This dish had already aroused the 5 judges' interest. Each judge held a pair of chopsticks, reaching out with great interest to pick up the dish and put it into their mouths. As soon as the dish entered their mouths, the judges' eyes bloomed with light. Interesting. This myriad of birds paying homage to the phoenix is actually a vegetable dish, but it has the texture of a meat dish. Every single bird is cooked with different immortal ingredient. There's no meat, but the taste surpasses that of meat. A judge exclaimed in admiration. As the grade of the bird species increases, the taste of the dish will also change. The most delicious dish is the phoenix, but the other bird species also have their own merit. It's a very creative vegetable dish. Another judge stroked his beard and let out a sigh of admiration. Dongfang Hua was arrogant. Of course, he knew his dish like the back of his hand. The reason why he had chosen a vegetable dish was because his opponent was only Bufang. If his opponent was the real monstrous genius of the 5th layer, he wouldn't have chosen a vegetable dish to cook. Instead, he would have chosen the meat of 10,000 birds to process. However, if it was all meat, it would be a bigger challenge for the chef. It was important to have the different tastes of different meat. However, to deal with the great demon, Dongfang Hua didn't think he needed to use the strongest version of myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix. Although the judges praised, they didn't rush to make a conclusion. Their eyes shifted to Bufang's dish. The spicy strip was cut into pieces, placed on a pile of ice. Its appearance was much worse than the myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix. However, it was lucky that the aroma of the spicy strip didn't lose to the myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix, which made the judges want to taste it. Spicy strip? It's the first time I've heard of this dish, the judge said with a smile. It was also the first time they had tasted Bufang's dish. Before this, Bufang's dishes had always been overwhelming. His dishes didn't need to be compared. He picked up a piece of spicy strip with his chopsticks. Dots of light bloomed on the spicy strip, which looked so beautiful, like an exquisite work of art. However, that was all. It couldn't surprise the judges more. Putting the spicy strip into his mouth, he slowly chewed and chewed. In just a blink of an eye, a wave of flavor filled his mouth. As he chewed, the oil seemed to be squeezed out of the spicy strip, shooting out in his mouth. In that instant, the 5 judges widened their eyes. In their pupils, there seemed to be a flame burning. Their eyes seemed to turn into an oven. Boom! Boom! It was like an erupting volcano. The judges' faces turned red in just a blink of an eye. Their nostrils fumed white smoke. This taste, a judge blushed, exclaiming in admiration. His body felt like it was on fire, and he had an urge to rip off his clothes. A small piece of spicy strip seemed to contain all kinds of flavors. That taste swirled in his mouth 1,000 times. Eventually, it became as spicy as fire. That spicy taste was pure and unpretentious. That aroma was low-key and not vulgar. As they chewed, the judges' hearts were filled with a feeling of exploring secrets. When they bit it, different meaty flavors burst out. That meat was so tender that it melted in their mouth. The meaty aroma burst out to the extreme. "Is this the taste of shrimp?" asked a judge while chewing. In the 4th layer of the Heaven Chief realm, of course, there was seafood. The judges must have tasted shrimp before. He wrapped the prawn meat in a simple spicy strip. However, the shrimp's taste didn't leak out. After biting it, the spicy taste of the spicy strip, the aroma of the sauce, and the shrimp meat exploded instantly. It was as if a bomb containing 3 different flavors had exploded in his mouth. It made people sink into it, unable to pull themselves out. "Delicious!" the judges exclaimed with complicated faces. Little Dit raised his thumb, gesturing with his chopstick. His chopsticks didn't stop picking up the spicy strip. When the spicy strip entered his stomach, Little Dit was so intoxicated. The judge's reaction made the audience burst into an uproar. At this moment, the audience was a little hesitant and skeptical because they couldn't determine who would win. Dongfang Hua's eyes shrank. He couldn't believe it. He felt that he didn't have 100% chance of winning. He even had a feeling of uneasiness in his heart. This uneasiness made Dongfang Hua a little irritated. How could I lose? How could a stick-like dish defeat me? Dongfang Hua took a deep breath, his cold eyes looking at Bufang. Then, he calmed down. I have to believe in my myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix. The creative myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix and the delicious abyssal spicy strip. Which one would the 5 judges choose? Under everyone's gazes, the judges made their choices one by one. I choose myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix. Although it's not as good as the spicy strip, its creativity and cooking skills are much better. A judge made his choice. I choose the abyssal spicy strip, not only because of the taste, but also because of the inexplicable throbbing in my heart. I choose the spicy strip, not because of anything else but my faith. Myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix can only be described as amazing. The 4 judges made their choices. The result was a tie of 2-2, which meant that they couldn't decide the final winner. However, there was still one more judge. At this moment, this judge had become the focus of the audience. Little Dit's mouth was stuffed with spicy strip. He seemed to notice that people were looking at him. Little Dit put down his chopsticks, rubbing his oily mouth. The wings on his back flapped, and he flew up, landing on the table. He placed his hands on his waist, and his lower body bloomed with holy light. Myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix. Flashy but impractical. If the ingredients were changed, it would be better. But cooking it with vegetables is the biggest failure. No doubt, for faith, only the spicy strip. 3-2. The winner was the Great Demon. As soon as the result was announced, the audience was shocked. Chapter 1046. 3-2 lost. Young Master Dongfang lost. How could it be? How could the myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix lose to a stick? The judge announced the final winner. Instantly, the entire square seemed as though it was about to explode. Everyone felt a wave of disbelief. Dongfang Hua, the monstrous genius from the 4th layer, lost to a heaven chief from the 1st layer. How could it be? The entire audience was shocked, thoroughly frightened. Who could have thought of such an ending? Even Dongfang Hua himself was dumbfounded. As a monstrous genius from the fourth layer, the Heaven Chief King lost? He was the Heaven Chief who wanted to enter the top 50. His myriad of birds bowing to the phoenix, which he had meticulously prepared, lost to a stick. The impact it had on him wasn't less than the mental attack of a grade 4 true immortal realm expert. He was dumbstruck. Dongfang Hua came to his senses when the entire place was in an uproar. Impossible! I can't lose. Even if I lose, I can't lose to a Heaven Chief from the first layer, Dongfang Hua shouted irritably, his eyes turning red in just a blink of an eye. The audience was also clamoring, claiming that there was a shady deal. Dongfang Hua couldn't lose. Bufang was calm, clasping his hands, his face emotionless. Actually, Bufang also exhaled in relief. When the thunderous attacks ended, Bufang was a little nervous, thinking that he was going to lose. Although the spicy strip wasn't bad, it wasn't his best dish, and the ingredients he used were just ordinary. If he lost because of that, Bufang would be a little upset. He couldn't help but sound the alarm. But fortunately, he won by a narrow margin. Since he had won, Bufang resumed his cold and aloof appearance. What did the audience's attitude have to do with him? The referee shouted. Terrifying energy waves expanded, sweeping through the entire place. Then, everybody quieted down. At this moment, the audience could only gawk, staring at the arena. They weren't convinced. They felt that it was unfair for young Master Dongfang. They felt that the referee was definitely protecting the great demon. How could an unknown Heaven Chief from the first level be able to defeat their young Master Dongfang like a dazzling black horse? The results are determined by the judges. Why are you dissatisfied? The judges are all third-grade Heaven Chief. What qualifications do you have to deny the decision of a third-grade Heaven Chief? The referee said. His voice was like a morning bell that resounded throughout the arena. That brat is also a third-grade Heaven Chief? Yeah. What right does that naked brat have to be a judge? We don't accept this. That brat will definitely protect the great demon. However, not long after the referee's voice faded, the audience started to clamor. They pointed at Little Dit's position and continued to clamor. Little Dit was stunned. His mouth bulged, and his hands on his waist stopped moving. Was he being suspected? The other judges were bewildered. They didn't think that the audience would doubt Little Dit's identity. That was a kid with the Realm Lord's token. His identity represented the Realm Lord. Who dared to be presumptuous? A judge was about to stand up and shout. However, before he could move, he was dumbfounded by Little Dit's action. Little Dit didn't seem to mind the audience's denial. His small hand grabbed a pair of chopsticks, sweeping the pile of crushed ice. Instantly, a piece of spicy strip flashed dazzlingly, dashing towards Dongfang Hua. Dongfang Hua squinted. His eyes seemed to have blood in them. Swish! That piece of spicy strip entered his mouth. As soon as the spicy strip entered his mouth, Dongfang Hua's eyes changed. The spicy strip in his mouth released all kinds of flavors. It made his pores open, as though they were about to spurt out white steam. This taste, Dongfang Hua suddenly stopped talking. His face slowly changed from white to fiery red. His mouth looked as though it was about to spurt fire. Beads of sweat rolled down his forehead. The audience looked at Dongfang Hua's appearance, not saying anything. They wanted to let Dongfang Hua evaluate it himself. What do you think? Do you still disagree with the judge's evaluation? After eating this spicy strip, you should know why you lost, right? Little Dit placed his hands on his hip. His lower body glowed with dazzling holy light. He glanced at Dongfang Hua, speaking casually. A moment later, Little Dit shrugged. His eyes scanned the entire place, looking at the audience. Then, he proudly lifted his head. Moreover, what does this Realm Lord's decision have to do with you? If you have the guts, Come and replace this realm lord's position. You know nothing about this realm lord's power. The entire place was silent. No one would have thought that this naked brat would actually be so domineering. I lost. After a while, Dongfang Hua opened his mouth. He clenched his fists, his eyes bloodshot. He knew he lost. Little Dit was right. As soon as he tasted the dish, he knew he lost. Moreover, it was a crushing defeat. Because he had chosen to cook the myriad of birds paying homage to the phoenix, he had lost the essence of this dish. This small gap was like a moat between heaven and earth. Although the level of the dish wasn't bad, its taste and meaning were utterly defeated. Since Dongfang Hua had admitted defeat, the audience could only sigh reluctantly. Buzz, a jet of silver light appeared, dashing toward Bufang. Bufang raised his hand and grabbed the silver light. When the light dispersed, the original appearance of the silver light was revealed. It was the silver pterosaur dragon bone knife in Dongfang Hua's hand. I lost the chef's challenge. I'll give the silver pterosaur dragon bone knife to you. But remember, next time I will win it back. Dongfang Hua's eyes looked like they were about to shoot fire. The dragon bone knife Bufang played with the silver pterosaur dragon bone knife, his eyes narrowing. Just for a moment, a dreadful dragon roar resounded from the dragon bone blade. In Bufang's mind, he was facing a massive silver pterosaur dragon that could cover the sky. The silver pterosaur dragon spread its silver wings, emitting a terrifying aura. Its scarlet eyes gazed at Bufang in front of it. Then, it opened its mouth, roaring. After a while, Bufang's mind recovered from the illusion. You're a little emotional now? The corners of Bufang's mouth rose. Hey, since the dragon bone knife is mine now, can I do a little test? Bufang lifted his head, looking at Dongfang Hua. Dongfang Hua looked at Bufang, who was fine. His pupils shrank. The silver pterosaur dragon bone knife's spirit didn't affect him at all? Sure. The knife is yours now. I can't do anything about it, Dongfang Hua said, gritting his teeth. Good. I've been waiting for you to say that. Bufang nodded. I'm curious whether your dragon bone knife or mine is sharper. That's why I want to test it, Bufang said. Golden light sparkled in his hand. A moment later, the golden dragon bone kitchen knife fell into his hand. Bufang's eyes sparkled. In his spirit sea, a giant silver pterosaur appeared. Its wings fluttered, stirring up stormy waves. But in the next moment, an even louder dragon roar resounded, causing the silver-winged dragon to freeze on the spot. The gold dragon's might expanded. A pressure from its bloodline made the silver pterosaur not dare to move. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Bufang's hand shook. The golden dragon bone kitchen knife spun in his hand, twirling. His other hand moved, and the silver pterosaur dragon bone knife also spun. Dongfang Hua gazed at Bufang. The corners of his mouth rose as he sneered. Looking at Bufang's posture, he wanted to use the knife to kill each other, comparing the sharpness of the silver pterosaur dragon bone knife. Wasn't he courting death? The silver pterosaur was an 8-star beast emperor. A bone knife made of the bones of that kind of existence. How could the knife in Bufang's hand, which didn't have any immortal energy, compare to it? There was no doubt that Bufang's kitchen knife would be cut in half. Bufang exhaled. A moment later, he wielded the knife. The golden dragon bone kitchen knife and the silver pterosaur dragon bone knife clashed. Dongfang was sneered, watching. However, at the moment the two knives clashed, the smile on his face froze. The fifth layer of the Heaven Chief realm several thousand miles outside the immortal city, above a majestic mountain peak. The void was torn apart. A moment later, a black dog walked out of it with cat-like step. Standing next to the black dog was a bald man and an elegant young girl. As soon as the Lord Go appeared, he walked in the void with his cat-like steps. Then, his dog nose twitched as if he had smelled something. Here, the Lord Go said casually. A moment later, he appeared in the void as if he had teleported. Raising his exquisite dog paw, he gently patted the void. The Black Dragon King and Hua were a little skeptical. They didn't seem to understand the meaning of the Lord Go's action. Those city lords are really cunning. There are so many treasures in that cultivation ground. That year, they seized the chance when the Lord Go was wounded to chase the Lord Go away. Now, the Lord Go is here to collect interest. The Lord Go said. A moment later, the exquisite dog paw patted, and the void shattered. A majestic palace suddenly appeared in the void, standing on top of the towering mountain peak. Thick immortal energy twirled around the palace. This is the cultivation ground of the city lord of the 5th layer of the immortal city. It's really luxurious. The Lord Go entered first, clicking his tongue in admiration. It was worthy of being a cultivation ground. The immortal energy was so thick that it almost turned into liquid and flowed. The Lord Go walked leisurely like a cat. Hua and the Black Dragon King followed behind him. The doors of the palace were tightly shut, but when the Lord Go approached, they all opened. A few of them were smashed open by the Lord Go's paw. This is the imperial bloodgrass. Lass, eat it. This is the dragon powder flower, purgatory fruit, It even has the 9-trace yellow essence. As the Lord Go walked, he picked up the treasures. When he saw something good, he would stuff it into his mouth. Occasionally, he would throw it to the Black Dragon King and Hua, asking them to eat it. Hua didn't hesitate. As a 7-colored sky-devouring python, if she wanted to evolve, she needed to constantly absorb treasures. These immortal ingredients were just right for her. Munch, munch, Hua ate happily, and essence energy seemed to spurt out of her mouth. The Black Dragon King was a little embarrassed. However, after eating a spirit fruit, his eyes widened. In the next moment, he started to eat crazily. Don't feel burdened. Many of the things here were collected by the Lord Go in the past. After these fellows drove the heavily injured Lord Go out of the Heaven Chief realm, they took Lord Go's things for themselves. Now, the Lord Go is only here to take back what belongs to him. I can also take some interest. The Lord Go's mouth moved up and down as he chewed on a heart-like fruit. The Black Dragon King and Hua nodded hurriedly. As long as they followed the Lord Go, they would have meat to eat. They ate from the beginning to the end. What is this? Suddenly, the Lord Go seemed to find something. His paw was holding a silver heart and his face was puzzled. Is this a treasure? Is it edible? The Black Dragon King asked while burping, his eyes sparkling. So strange. This silver heart has a familiar aura. It's like the aura of a Qilin chef. The Lord Go furrowed his brows. However, he was a little uncertain. Why would the city lord of the 5th layer have a Qilin chef's heart? Moreover, this aura was familiar to the Lord Go. It was like the city lord of the 1st layer. That year, the Lord Go had dealt with him, so he was somewhat familiar with him. The Qilin chef heart of the 1st layer's city lord. The Lord Go suddenly bared his teeth. Seems like I've found something extraordinary. The 5th floor of Heaven Chief Realm Yaya anxiously paced back and forth. All of a sudden, the void trembled. City Lord Feng and the others appeared. Seeing these city lords, Yaya's face changed. City lords, all of you have finally returned. Yaya's face revealed a mournful expression as she spoke. That dog. That dog. What happened to that dog? Did he come here? City Lord Feng furrowed his brows, his eyes sharp. That dog came here. He asked me for the cultivation area's coordinates. Yaya said guiltily. He asked for the cultivation area's coordinates? The 4 city lords exchanged looks, looking skeptical. A moment later, the expressions on everyone's faces changed dramatically. That dog. Damn it. City Lord Feng's eyes shrank. His anger and murderous intent soared to the sky, and fear. Rumble. City Lord Feng's figure flashed. Rumbling sounds echoed as he smashed the void, disappearing from his spot. The other city lords sucked in a breath of cold air. They left the 5th layer, rushing to their respective cultivation areas. If the training ground was dug up by that dog, that would be terrible. Chapter 1047. Under Dongfang Hua's sneering eyes, Bufang's gold dragon bone kitchen knife and the silver pterosaur dragon bone kitchen knife collided. Instantly, a clanging sound arose, echoing through the entire place. Almost everybody couldn't help but gawk. Was the great demon from the first layer crazy? How could he use his kitchen knife to collide with Dongfang Hua's silver pterosaur dragon bone kitchen knife? Wasn't he just looking for trouble? As people from the fourth layer, how could they not know the sharpness of the silver pterosaur dragon bone kitchen knife? It was a high-grade immortal tool made from the bones of an 8-star beast emperor. Could it be that the great demon from the first layer of the Heaven Chief realm had a top-grade immortal tool in his hand? There was a cracking sound. A clear sound reverberated through the entire place. A moment later, the entire square became quiet. Everybody stared at the arena, not daring to breathe loudly. They didn't know what to say. Dongfang Hua was bewildered, looking forward. A moment later, his face reddened. My silver pterosaur dragon bone kitchen knife. Dongfang Hua felt his heart bleeding crack, crack. The result of the collision was out. The silver pterosaur dragon bone kitchen knife had a crack. On the contrary, Bufang's gold dragon bone kitchen knife wasn't damaged at all. What the F***ck? How could it be? That was a high-grade immortal tool. How could a high-grade immortal tool be cracked by a kitchen knife that didn't even emit any immortal energy? It's cracked. Bufang looked at the cracked silver pterosaur dragon bone kitchen knife and couldn't help but smirk. If he hadn't, the silver pterosaur dragon bone kitchen knife would have been cut in half. Indeed, this small test didn't reveal the god of cooking set's true level. However, at least he could confirm that the god of cooking set wasn't weaker than the top-grade immortal tool from the Heaven Chief realm. Since the high-grade immortal tool was cracked when it collided with a high-grade immortal tool, it meant that the level of the god of cooking set was higher than that of a high-grade immortal tool. Then, it had to be a top-grade immortal tool. Of course. This made Bufang more and more interested in the fourth piece of the god of cooking set. He was very curious about what the fourth god of cooking set would be. In order to get the fourth piece of the god of cooking set, Bufang was even more determined to enter the top 10 of the Heaven Chief competition. This was the only way he could obtain the last fragment of the god of cooking set. Bufang put away the 2 dragon bone kitchen knives. Then, with his hands clasped behind his back, Bufang turned around and walked down the stage. Down below, Gongshu Ban's eyes reddened, looking at Bufang with excitement. "Owner Bu, you're too awesome!" Gongshu Ban almost jumped up from his spot. He was so excited that he wanted to hug Bufang. However, Bufang rejected him. The little girl, Cici, was also very happy and bounced on the spot. "Calm down. It's just a daily routine." Bufang looked at the excited Gongshu Ban, the corners of his mouth twitching as he patted the latter's shoulder. The first challenge had ended. Next, Bufang could continue the challenge. "Owner Bu, rest for a while. We can continue the challenge. The next challenge will be between 79th to 60th. Who does Owner Bu want to challenge?" asked Gongshu Ban. In Gongshu Ban's opinion, at this moment, Bufang had to fight steadily and surely. However, Gongshu Ban could guess that Bufang would definitely not follow his plan. "Don't think too much. Go straight to 60th, Bufang rubbed Cici's head, saying casually. "Indeed, 60th place?" Gongshu Ban was already immune to Bufang's choices. This fellow didn't follow common sense at all. His mind sank into the jade talisman. Gongshu Ban looked at the name on the jade talisman and said, 60th place. It's still a Heaven Chief from the 4th layer of the Heaven Chief competition. His cooking skills are a little weaker than Dongfang Hua's. However, he has a high chance to enter the top 50. He's considered a veteran. It's his 3rd time participating in the Heaven Chief competition. All right, it's him, Bu Feng said casually. Gongshu Ban heard Bu Feng's confirmation. His mind shivered as he stammered on that name. Buzz then, the entire audience burst into an uproar. After Bu Feng made his choice, the news was broadcasted on the massive light curtain. Next challenge, Bu Feng challenges Sun Quangu. As soon as this news was spread out, the audience was inexplicably frightened. Sun Quangu was ranked 60th, the great demon was too arrogant. He directly challenged the strongest one. However, this time, people favored Bu Feng because Sun Quangu was a little weaker than Dongfang Hua. Although he was a veteran, his innate talent was still there. Dongfang Hua had already walked down the stage in a daze. Without the silver pterosaur dragon bone kitchen knife, his cooking skills would decrease a lot. However, as the leader of the fourth layer, of course, he still had some immortal tools and kitchen knives in his hand. After resting for a while, a few more matches had ended in the arena. It was now Bu Feng's turn. Bu Feng slowly stepped on the stage. His vermilion robe fluttered, but he still looked so calm, as if he was floating in the air like an immortal. His calmness made the expressions of the audience extremely complicated. The great demon was so terrifying. The referee appeared by Bu Feng. He looked at Bu Feng meaningfully. You're going to cook the crayfish abyssal spicy strip this time? Bu Feng looked at the referee skeptically. Guess, let me give you a piece of advice. If you keep showing the same dish, the judges will give you a lower score. The referee said. So, if you want to go further, you'd better show more new dishes. New dishes? Of course, I will, Bu Feng said casually. Time flew. There was still only Bu Feng on the stage. The surrounding audience burst into an uproar. This scene was so familiar. The corner of the referee's mouth twitched. He looked at Bu Feng as if he was looking at a monster. Did Sun Quangu choose to give up? After waiting for a long time, Sun Quangu didn't get on the stage. Without a doubt, he chose to give up. Another contestant gave up, moreover, it was the top character of the fourth layer's Heaven Chief. The audience didn't know what to say. The great demon was so terrifying? However, many people understood that Sun Quangu's giving up was the best choice. Since Sun Quangu had given up, he didn't need to face Bu Feng in the chef's challenge. He wouldn't be like Dongfang Hua, who lost his kitchen knife, which would affect his performance. The challenged and the challenger were different. If the challenged failed, he was still qualified to continue challenging. However, if the challenger failed, his ranking would be fixed, and he would lose the right to challenge. Thus, Sun Quangu chose to give up, preserving his strength and challenging a more confident contestant. It was the best choice. Seems like I won't have a chance to show my new dish. Bu Feng looked at the referee, his face emotionless. The referee was speechless. Another forfeit. Facing the great demon, 2 contestants had chosen to give up. This Heaven Chief from the first layer wanted to sweep all the way. Since Sun Quangu had given up, Bu Feng had the chance to continue challenging. And in the next match, he would challenge the 50th ranked contestant. What everyone didn't expect was that Bu Feng's opponent gave up again. The audience was in an uproar again, almost numb. Had the great demon become a taboo existence? His opponents didn't choose to accept the challenge. Instead, they all gave up. The 50th ranked contestant was the Heaven Chief from the 5th layer. After weighing the pros and cons, the opponents felt that Bu Feng's cooking skills were a threat. If they couldn't win, they would lose their kitchen knife. They couldn't afford to pay such a price. A good kitchen knife could play a big role in people's culinary skills. Thus, Bu Feng became the 50th ranked contestant. Even the referee didn't know what to say. Gongshu Ban roared excitedly, constantly waving his fist. He had entered the top 50. Although the process was a little funny, at least he had entered the top 50 of the Heaven Chief competition. This glory made Gongshu Ban feel a little unreal. After so many years, finally, someone from the first layer of the Heaven Chief competition could enter the top 50. Even if it was just entering the top 50, it was still a kind of unreal glory. Just a daily operation. Continue the challenge. We can't stop, Bufang said casually. Do you still want to challenge? No need. Our current ranking is enough for us to enter the 5th layer for the finals. We just need to maintain our current ranking, Gongshu Ban said. He refused to let Bufang continue the challenge. Continue the challenge. Don't be afraid. You have to have an indomitable heart, Bufang said. Then, ignoring Gongshu Ban's objection, Bufang called out the name of the 40th contestant. In that instant, the entire audience was in an uproar. Bufang actually chose to continue the challenge. He had entered the top 50, but he still wanted to continue the challenge. Was there a hole in his brain? If he lost, Bufang would lose the qualification to continue the challenge, and his ranking would be fixed. The challenger could only win and not lose, unlike the challenged, who could lose once. However, it was beyond everyone's expectation. The 40th contestant also chose to give up. Gave up again. The referee didn't want to be the host of Bufang's match. It was meaningless. How come the young people nowadays don't have any drive? Because they were afraid of losing the chef's challenge, they chose to give up. They had completely lost the heart to continue the challenge. The judges on the stage shook their heads disappointedly. This cooking competition had really disappointed them. Without the heart to advance, the achievements of the Heaven Chief were limited. It was because it was really hard for them to condense the heart of cooking path. Bufang was a little speechless and regretful about his opponent's decision to give up. He sighed, then walked down the stage. I don't want to challenge anymore. It's boring. Let's just wait for the finals of the 5th layer. Bufang shook his head. His opponent had given up. It was not interesting at all. He didn't want this kind of competition. It would be better to directly join the finals of the 5th layer. Entering the top 50 would be qualified to enter the 5th layer, where they would participate in the finals of this year's Heaven Chief competition. At that time, each contestant would try their best, and the competition would be the fiercest. Moreover, at this moment, Bufang also had a headache, because he had no clue how to condense the heart of cooking path. If he wanted to get the fragments of the God of Cooking set, he had to condense the heart of cooking path and complete the system's mission. Rumble! 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 The void rumbled. In the next moment, there seemed to be a figure streaking across the sky like a meteor, falling with a loud rumble. The mountain peak was swaying. City Lord Feng looked at the space crack, which had appeared on the mountain peak. His heart chilled. Damn dog! A kitchen knife appeared in City Lord Feng's hand. He gripped it tightly, his eyes filled with cold, murderous intent. I hope that secret hasn't been discovered yet. Otherwise, even if I have to go to the ends of the earth, I will kill that dog. City Lord Feng took a deep breath, trying to suppress the shiver in his heart. A moment later, he stepped into the palace. Damn it! Rumble! Rumble! However, looking at the messy palace, City Lord Feng couldn't restrain his anger, roaring. He wasn't angry because the immortal materials were all taken. He was angry because the heart was gone. It was his secret, a secret that he couldn't let anyone find out. The 4th layer of the Heaven Chief world, there was a gorgeous courtyard within a spatial crack. Immortal materials were flying everywhere in the courtyard. A moment later, a black dog walked out with cat-like step. While walking, the black dog burped. Behind the black dog were Hua and the Black Dragon King, who were also burping. The Black Dragon King was carrying a bulging sack, which had immortal energy twirling around it. Apparently, he had collected many good things. Burp. Follow the Lord go to the 3rd layer. Chapter 1048. In the 5th layer, the scenery was much more beautiful than the other layers. Bufang used his mental energy to control it. Without a bit of hesitation, he chose the 10th place, Huang Haotian's name. After the referee had introduced the rules, the entire arena burst into an uproar. There's only one winner. The winner gets the right to continue the challenge, and the loser's ranking will be fixed, ending the competition. It was too exciting. Bufang's achievement had broken the record of the first layer. Huang Haotian clasped his hands, coldly and arrogantly entering the arena. As soon as he appeared, the entire audience clamored. The rules for these 50 contestants were a little different from before. He had almost lost the last match, which had alerted Bufang. At this level, there were no weak contestants. If he was careless, he could lose. Immortal tongue. It wasn't ordinary. With an immortal tongue, the chef's control over the taste of his dishes would reach an extreme level. His subtle control over the taste would surpass Bufang's previous opponent. As soon as he stepped into this layer, he felt a torrential flow of spirit energy brushing his face. In the sky, the leaves of the heaven tree were swaying, as if they were rustling in the wind. At first glance, it was a little shocking. As soon as his voice faded, boom, boom, boom. With just a glance, Bufang felt his heart shrink. It could be said that Bufang was the biggest variable in this year's Heaven Chief competition. He could force a contestant to give up. It was enough to show how powerful Bufang was. It was still a challenge, but it was different from the previous ones. It was as if he could see through everything, which made Bufang feel incredulous. Bufang's mind sank into the jade talisman as he spoke. When he saw the magnificent immortal city, this feeling became more intense. Bufang stood in the southeast. Dongfang Hua and Zhou Quangliu stood next to him. Facing him was the one being challenged. Huang Haotian, said the referee. This time, there was no limit on the number of contestants. More importantly, Huang Haotian has an immortal tongue. It's a talent that all chefs dream of. The sense of urgency and pressure made Bufang's body slightly tremble. In the distance, Gongshu Ban was bewildered, looking at Bufang in disbelief. The arena was empty. In the finals, Bufang did not dare to be careless. It was excitement. Focus on the 10th place. During the finals, we'll directly challenge the 10th place. All kinds of majestic energy poured out in torrents. However, when the 10 immortal chefs, who seemed to have their own radiance, walked out, the entire audience burst into a thunderous uproar. This was the 10th place contestant of the Heaven Chief competition, a demon-like genius of the 5th level. He was very popular. After the referee introduced the names and achievements of the 10 Heaven Chief, he began to introduce the key rules of the Heaven Chief competition. The 4 of them stood at the 4 corners of the arena. In other words, every contestant in the top 50 could choose an opponent to challenge. Of course, the top 10 could also challenge each other, but it wasn't time yet. Once his ranking was fixed, he quickly rolled away. As tens of thousands of people were watching, the Heaven Chief entered the arena one after another. Dongfang Hua entered the arena one more time. His eyes were blood-red, and his body was twirled with a blood-red flame. Zhou Quangliu also entered the arena with a cool posture. Bufang and the other 3 also looked at the referee. Of course, Huang Haotian was the most pitiful one, who asked him to be ranked 10th. He was treated like a soft persimmon. Thus, Bufang had to maintain his condition to defeat his opponents in the next round. No doubt, Bufang's next match would be his most terrifying opponent. Far from him, Bufang was thinking about his dish. The immortal city was situated by the waterfall. Majestic water vapor continually poured in, making beautiful rainbows hover above the immortal city. The referee was still the same, and the judges were still the same. Along with a beam of light, however, he had to admit that the 5th level had a lot of resources and geniuses. When Bufang was fighting against Dongfang Hua, he had to struggle a lot. If he were to fight against the top 10, he would be killed. There were both men and women. There were more men and fewer women. Now, You have the time to brew a pot of tea to study and choose your opponent. And the audience was also very satisfied watching it. The first match of the top 10 challenge. Theme: chicken. How could it be? This feeling. Is it the heart of cooking path? Gongshu Ban was bewildered. Then, he screamed in surprise. It was so beautiful that people could get drunk on it. The names of the top 10 monstrous heaven chief in the Jade Talisman list have come out. Huang Haotian was ranked 10th. 3 challengers had come to challenge him. Many people gazed at the light curtain, feeling disbelieving. Under the gazes of tens of thousands of people, the referee announced loudly. They opened their eyes wide, gazing at the arena. They were waiting for the result of the challenge. Everyone was hesitating and hesitating. Jade talismans soared into the sky. All of them wore chef robes, which made them look cold and stern. After carefully deciding, they chose their opponent. At the same time, the names in the jade talismans of the contestants lit up. The final match was crazy indeed. 3 challengers had come to challenge the 10th contestant. And the final match of the Heaven Chief competition would be held in this place. They came to the Immortal City and found a place to rest. Then they returned to their rooms. Bufang, Gongshu Ban, and the others came to the 5th floor of Heaven Chief Realm. They had to deal with these rookies first. Since they could reach this level, of course, they had to have a high level. The lightning punishment they had triggered was really powerful. Among them, Bufang saw many triple lightning punishments. Gongshu Ban was also in Bufang's room. He was really excited. Bufang could reach this level, which had completely changed his view of the world. 10th place. The monstrous Heaven Chief from the 5th floor of Heaven Chief Realm. His name is Huang Haotian. He has a high-grade immortal knife, and his cooking skills are exquisite. He has an immortal flame ranked 51st on the immortal flame ranking. Thus, the risk of the final match was much higher than before, and the pace was much faster than before. The referee landed in the middle of the arena and looked at the 4 of them solemnly. He saw the leader of the 10 contestants. He had made the right bet. Bufang had chosen to challenge the 10th contestant. This time, his target wasn't Huang Haotian but Bufang. He wanted to take revenge and wash away the haze in his heart. All of a sudden, his eyes shrank as he took in a breath of cold air. Bufang's way of entering the arena was the most ordinary. He leisurely walked from the bottom of the arena to the stage. Because they didn't have any burden anymore. The top 10 contestants all came from the 5th floor. The 5th floor's Heaven Tree Square was the most magnificent and dazzling one. As soon as he said that, the challenge began. Gongshu Ban was so happy. He kept telling Bufang to go all out and fight. No matter if it was Huang Haotian, the Great Demon, or Dongfang Hora, the competition was fierce, which filled people with anticipation. Said the referee. Even the top 10 immortal chefs were a little dazed. Looking at the light screen, they furrowed their brows. Buzz, however, it was different from Cici. Huang Haotian's immortal tongue had fully developed, and it was much more sensitive than Cici's. On this floor, people could see the mysterious and complicated patterns on the leaves of the heaven tree. They could see countless spirit fruits hanging on the heaven tree. In this world, there was a waterfall in the sky. Water poured down rapidly, looking like white hair. Thunderous booms resounded endlessly. On the arena, the match had reached its climax. Some won, some lost. Some were happy and some were crying. The Heaven Chief who had been settled in the inn rushed out, heading to the Heaven Tree Square. Everybody held their breaths, looking forward to the next match. Gongshu Ban's words surprised Bufang. The most important thing was, of course, if he won, he could replace his opponent's position. If he lost, the match would be suspended, and he wouldn't have the chance to challenge anymore. What was the theme of the cooking competition? Cici also had the innate gift of immortal tongue. It was also the reason why Bufang had kidnapped Cici. Bufang took a deep breath. The 5th layer was the center of the entire Heaven Chief's world. Many monstrous Heaven Chief geniuses were born. That waterfall constantly released energy which shocked people's eyes. It meant that when the time came, there would be a situation where 4 people would compete in cooking at the same time. Only after the challenges of the other positions had ended would the challenges of the top 10 begin. However, on the massive light screen, there was a stove in front of them. Of course, it was the stove that the officials had prepared. If the contestants had their own immortal tool stove, they could use their own stove. The clamor was deafening in an instant. Bufang wasn't the same as the other Heaven Chief. He couldn't lose. The audience outside the arena was silent. Even Bufang's heart couldn't help but shiver. Indeed, it caused an uproar. The referee said. The referee stood in the center of the vast arena, clasping his hands as he scanned the audience. His sluggish manner infuriated many of the audience members who were watching. His eyes focused, looking straight at the arena. The air was filled with a thick aroma. It was the aroma of the dishes. There were 50 contestants in the finals. Above them was a 7-colored rainbow. The leaves of the heaven tree were rustling, sending down beams of light. They didn't expect that the Heaven Chief from the first layer would have such a day. Finally, everything on the stage was cleared. The 10th? Owner Bu wants to challenge the 10th from the 40th? Gongshu Ban took in a breath of cold air. However, someone challenged the 7th. Why didn't the challenger challenge the 10th? In the finals, more than one person could challenge one person. The challenge of the top 10 was the highlight, so it wouldn't start soon. However, no matter what, the winner would be revealed eventually. Cici gawked, looking at Bufang and then at Gongshu Ban in the distance. Bufang was also in his room, thinking about the dish he would cook for the next match. Would his next opponent have an immortal tongue? The next day, the Heaven Chief competition, the challenge of the top 10. The contestants are Huang Haotian, Dongfang Hua, Zhou Quangliu, and Bufang. The 10 most monstrous Heaven Chief of the younger generation had appeared. Gongshu Ban said. Shortly after, the challenge situation was shown. It should be known that the top 10 Heaven Chief were all monstrous geniuses. The great demon appeared. Of course, the audience was in an uproar. As for the 7th rank Xiakue, there was actually a challenger challenging him. Everyone seemed to be suffocated by the pressure of these 10 people. His eyes were so stern. The scenery of the 5th layer was really beautiful. They had taken the teleportation formation to get here, and the beautiful scenery had intoxicated them. Immortal tongue. The moment these 10 people appeared, the atmosphere in the arena instantly became somewhat different. Bufang, who was in the crowd, also sensed it. The latter seemed to sense Bufang's gaze. With a slight glance, Bufang's hair stood on end. The first match of the challenge of the top 10 had made the audience's blood boil. At this moment, Gongshu Ban was sitting on his chair. His consciousness sank into the jade talisman, studying Bufang's opponent. Under the arena, silhouettes dashed out like lightning. Although the immortal city was beautiful, at this moment, everybody was focused on the Heaven Chief competition. No one was in the mood to enjoy the beautiful scenery. Under the arena, Gongshu Ban clenched his fists, his body shivering. It's too hard. The 10th is really strong. We should play it safe. If we can get one, it's one. Gongshu Ban said. Bufang's mind sank into the jade talisman, seeing the top 10 names on the ranking. Don't be afraid. Don't be a coward. Just do it, Bufang said, his face emotionless. Everybody was in an uproar. Around the Heaven Tree Square, it was the same as the 4th layer. It was full of spectators, and almost everyone had a fanatical look on their faces. But in fact, the audience all knew Bufang. Bufang furrowed his brows. He stood up, slowly walking around the room. Black clouds rolled and lightning bolts struck. The top 10 contestants looked at the 40 people with interest. They were curious about who would challenge them. The rules of the challenge of the top 10 are different. The theme of the dish is decided by the judges. This time, The theme is in my hands. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.